Chapter 34. Fong Ping was excited about his gains. Then his expression changed, and he hurriedly picked up his bag and walked home. Room 101. In the small room, Fong Ping's expression was bitter. He cursed in his heart. "I knew you weren't reliable. You really are. Don't tell me he got greedy and pocketed my wealth." Just now, just as he was getting excited, the 3 lines of data in his vision suddenly disappeared. It was very sudden. It was like a power outage. Nothing could be seen. Fong Ping felt that there was something wrong with this broken system when it did not give him an instruction manual. Now he had finally collected more than 2 million wealth points. He hadn't even had the chance to enjoy it when it was all gone. If this wasn't an attempt to run away with the money, what else could it be? Fong Ping cursed in his heart, but he refused to give up. He widened his eyes and stared at the black screen in front of him. Just as Fong Ping's eyes were about to burst into tears, the blackened panel in his vision flashed. Soon, the 3 rows of data appeared again. Only then did Fong Ping heave a sigh of relief. He rubbed his eyes and cursed in his heart. "You can just King level up. Can't you at least inform me? Are you trying to scare me?" Fong Ping was getting more and more dissatisfied with this broken system. It was one thing that he did not have an instruction manual, but to appear and disappear as he pleased, who did he think he was? Cursing aside, Fong Ping still focused on the 3 rows of data that had just appeared. Wealth, 2403800 vitality, 121 cal mentality, 110 hertz. It wasn't a big change, just a change in data. A small vitality measuring machine has become a large vitality chamber? Fong Ping secretly calculated the effects of such a change. The most basic point was that it saved the cost of going to the hospital for a checkup. The upgrade this time was probably because his wealth had reached a certain level and it had upgraded from the basic version to the precise version. Very quickly, Fong Ping thought of a second use. The previous increments were all based on 0. 1. 10,000 wealth points could increase 10 calories of vitality. Now, can you increase your wealth by 1,000 points by 1 calorie? After some thought, Fong Ping decided that he should give it a try. He hesitated no more. Now that he was rich, he did not care about 1,000 wealth. He silently thought about increasing his vitality by 1 calorie. Soon, the data in front of him changed. Wealth, 2402800 vitality, 122 cal mentality, 110 hertz as expected. Fong Ping was overjoyed. It could work. The new data was not as simple as saving the cost of a vitality check. Instead, it allowed Fong Ping to understand the condition of his body more directly. For example, every time Fong Ping leveled up, it was in units of 10 calories. Last time, his body almost couldn't meet the requirements, and he was in so much pain that he wanted to die. That was because he had advanced too much at once, causing his body to be unable to keep up. Things were different now. Fong Ping could not feel it too strongly with the increase of 1 calorie. He could control his body more effectively and avoid situations where his blood vessels burst. Other than that, Fong Ping quickly thought of another benefit. It would be more effective in preventing the secret from being discovered. A martial artist like Wang Jinyang would be able to sense the difference very quickly if his vitality increased by 10 calories in one go. Just like before, Fong Ping had no choice but to find an excuse to fool them. If it was an increase of 1 or 2 cal, the increase would not be too obvious, and Wang Jinyang would not have noticed it. Fortunately, Fong Ping did not come into contact with many martial artists. Currently, Wang Jinyang was the only one. However, once he entered a martial arts university, there would be many martial artists by his side. In the end, you disappeared for one night and suddenly increased your vitality by 10 calories. It was normal for people to find out that something was wrong. If 10 calories was converted to a week or 10 days and he slowly increased it, the probability of finding out was not high. Fong Ping was very satisfied after he thought it through. The effect of the upgrade this time was not bad. Even the units could be instantiated. This is a good thing. At least it's reliable. Fang Ping praised the system in his heart. He could not help but curse in his heart. It was also a money-hungry thing. When he had no money, it did not even give him an instruction manual. He had to figure everything out by himself. Now that his wealth had increased, even the specific units were displayed. What a snob! The data reappeared, but Fang Ping was not in a hurry to increase his mentality. Wang Jinyang was still upstairs. If he increased it now, any abnormalities would be easily discovered. It would not be too late to make use of him after he left. Considering that Wang Jinyang was upstairs and that there was also a dead man above him, Fang Ping was a little nervous. He did not stay at home for long. After hiding the cash, Fang Ping took the pills with him and went to school with his backpack. On his way, Fang Ping was still thinking about whether to buy a house or rent it. His house was too small. His parents were fine. They usually would not go into his room to look around. That unreliable Fang Yuan, however, was too curious. From time to time, she would go into his room to look for snacks, comic books, fun toys. In short, that girl was interested in everything. Now, including the 20,000 his parents had given him, he had a total of more than 220,000 in cash in his room. Although he had hidden it, 220,000 was not a piece of paper. It would be hard to say if that girl found it. I have to get a bank card later, Fang Ping muttered. After all, Wang Jinyang's 1 million had not been transferred to him. He had to get a card as soon as possible, lest that guy forgot about it when he went back to breakthrough in seclusion. Next, he would cultivate his cultivation methods and train his body. His house was not good either. He could not always train in the yard. When he had no money, Fang Ping did not think about this. Now that he had money, it was necessary to get a secret nest for himself. Rent or buy a house, making a mental note of this. Fang Ping planned to look for one this Sunday. After spending the whole afternoon in school, Fang Ping hurried home after school. He was a little worried. He was still hiding the cash in his house, and he was afraid that Fang Yuan would find it. However, when he reached his house, Fang Ping's face turned green. Compared to Fang Yuan finding the money, something worse seemed to have happened. In the corridor, in front of Fang Ping's house, someone Fang Ping did not expect to see was standing there. It was Wang Jinyang. Although Wang Jinyang said that he would leave at night, Fang Ping thought that the guy would not go out during the day. Who would have thought that he would walk out of his house in broad daylight? If Wang Jinyang was alone, Fang Ping would not have minded. However, Wang Jinyang was chatting with Fang Yuan. Fang Ping felt a headache coming on. He hurried over. Wang Jinyang, who was talking, saw Fang Ping and nodded with a smile. Fang Yuan, on the other hand, was grinning from ear to ear. The moment she saw Fang Ping, she said happily, "Fang Ping, you're back!" "Yes, what are you guys doing?" "Fang Ping, don't you think it's a coincidence that I bumped into Senior Wang?" Fang Yuan was very excited. Then she asked curiously, "Don't you know him?" Fang Ping's expression turned bitter. Of course he knew him. More importantly, why were the two of them chatting together? And that bastard Wang Jinyang. Why did you come downstairs instead of guarding the corpses obediently? Fang Yuan could not hide her words. She ignored Fang Ping's confusion and said happily, "I bumped into Senior Wang outside when I came back just now." "Fang Ping, I didn't expect Senior Wang to have relatives staying here. If it wasn't for my classmate showing off Senior Wang's autographed photo to me yesterday, I wouldn't have recognized him. I said it was a pity that I didn't bump into Senior Wang. I didn't expect to bump into him today. Fang Ping, you lied to me last time, saying that Senior Wang had left." Fang Ping's face turned even greener. It was because he had told a lie that he thought was perfect. He thought that his family would not have any contact with Wang Jinyang in the future, so he said that Wang Jinyang was the one who sold him the pills. If his sister brought it up now, he would be exposed. However, judging by Fang Yuan's excited expression, she probably did not have the time to bring it up. Fang Ping said hurriedly, "Don't disturb Brother Wang. He's busy. Go inside first." Fang Yuan's joyful expression fell instantly. She mumbled, "No, Senior Wang didn't say he was busy. Go back. Don't embarrass me, your brother." Fang Ping scolded her hurriedly. Then he laughed dryly at Wang Jinyang. "My sister insisted that I get your autograph last time. She even said that she could sell a few hundred for some money." Fang Ping could only change the topic now. Wang Jinyang could not help but laugh when he heard that. Fang Yuan glared at Fang Ping, gritting her teeth. What a jerk! She had even planned to ask Wang Jinyang for an autograph later. Now that her brother had said that, the little girl was too embarrassed to admit it. She shook her head at Wang Jinyang hurriedly. Then she opened the door and entered the house quickly. "You guys talk. I'm going to do my homework." Bang! The sound of the door closing was loud. The little girl was obviously angry that Fang Ping had ruined her plan. Fang Ping did not know whether to laugh or cry. He could not help but look at Wang Jinyang. Why was this guy out in broad daylight? As if reading his mind, Wang Jinyang chuckled. "Don't be nervous. I'm not a bad guy. If it weren't for the fact that I'm worried that people would be scared to see me in broad daylight, I could even carry it out right now." Fang Ping laughed dryly and did not say anything. It was rare for Wang Jinyang to explain. "I don't have a duffel bag. It's not convenient. I went out to buy a duffel bag and some fast food." He even waved the fast food in his hand at Fang Ping. When he mentioned a duffel bag, Fang Ping did not need to think to know what it was for. However, when he mentioned fast food, Fang Ping's scalp went numb. Was there something wrong with this guy? You might as well finish eating outside. Why did you buy fast food? Don't forget, there's a corpse upstairs. Fang Ping thought that this guy was a little perverted when he thought about how he was enjoying Huang Bin's corpse while eating. Wang Jinyang did not feel that way. He chuckled. "I met your sister on the way. She's quite an interesting girl." "Don't you dare have any ideas about my sister," Fang Ping blurted out. Wang Jinyang was stunned for a moment. Then the corner of his mouth twitched. "You're a siscon, aren't you?" "Of course. Mother asterisk her. There are tons of pretty girls chasing after me in martial arts universities. There are even more from other schools. Beautiful instructors, class bell. Rich heiresses. Since when did he, Wang Jinyang, stoop so low as to hit on a little girl?" Fang Yuan had recognized him earlier and chattered to him like they were old friends. Wang Jinyang only thought it was interesting. Since they were going the same way, Wang Jinyang did not avoid her. However, this Fang Ping dared to question his character. Wang Jinyang looked at Fang Ping unkindly. Fang Ping looked embarrassed. It was a habit, just a habit. In his past life, there were many guys who had ideas about his sister. Fang Ping had helped Fang Yuan deal with them many times. When Wang Jinyang said this just now, he subconsciously said this. They stared at each other for a moment. Wang Jinyang laughed and said, "I'll leave tonight. I'm going back to martial arts university tomorrow. I hope it won't be too long before we meet again. You're very interesting. Bold, meticulous, ruthless, and knew when to give and take." That was Wang Jinyang's impression of Fang Ping. That was why Wang Jinyang was quite interested in Fang Ping. He wanted to know if the guy would do something more interesting after he became a martial artist. Fang Ping smiled and nodded without saying anything else. Wang Jinyang did not stay for long. He carried the fast food and went upstairs slowly. After he left, Fang Ping exhaled softly. Wang Jinyang was a martial artist after all. No matter how friendly he appeared, Fang Ping still felt pressured. In the dead of night, when he heard the faint sound of the door closing upstairs, Fang Ping, who was pretending to read in his room, mumbled, "He's finally gone!" Wang Jinyang did not leave, so he felt pressured. Chapter 35. Night. Not long after Wang Jinyang left, Fang Ping began to increase his strength. Soon, the data in front of Fang Ping changed. Wealth. 2370800 vitality, 124 cal mentality, 140 hertz after spending more than 30,000 wealth points. Fang Ping increased his vitality and mentality to the maximum. His vitality of 124 calories made him feel like his blood vessels were about to explode. His mentality of 140 hertz also made his head feel cool at first, but now it felt heavy and painful. Fang Ping knew that this was his current limit, so he did not dare to increase it further. The slightly drowsy Fang Ping did not test the effects of increasing his mentality at night. He chose to sleep first. The next day, April 12th, Saturday, Fang Ping did not feel tired at all when he woke up. He only felt refreshed. Even the air was much fresher. He did not laze in bed like before. Fang Ping did not even think about lazing in bed now. He got up and washed up. After washing up, Fang Ping banged on Fang Yuan's door and yelled, "Wake up! I'm going to be late." "Fang Yuan, why are you still sleeping? Your face is getting rounder the longer you sleep." Fang Ping knocked on the door violently. Fang Yuan yawned and opened the door with half-closed eyes. She gave Fang Ping a dissatisfied look and walked to the bathroom as usual. Fang Yuan was still drowsy when she washed up. Something was not right. As for what exactly was wrong, she couldn't figure it out. After washing up, she returned to the living room and saw Fang Ping eating. Fang Yuan sat opposite him and yawned, propping her chin. "Fang Ping, I think I forgot something. What is it?" Fang Ping pretended not to know what was going on and brushed her off. "Yeah, what is it?" The girl fell into deep thought. Did she forget to ask Wang Jinyang for his autograph? Or did she forget to do her homework? Homework, that's right. Fang Yuan seemed to remember something. She looked at Fang Ping unkindly and said through gritted teeth, "Fang Ping!" What day is it today? I forgot." "It's Saturday." Fang Yuan's face puffed up in anger. She said angrily, "You have class on Saturday." "I don't." "Why did you call me?" Fang Ping was very calm. He said casually, "I forgot, didn't I? Besides, waking up early is good for your health. I'm doing this for your own good." "This is infuriating." The girl bared her fangs and brandished her claws, ready to fight Fang Ping to the death. A few minutes later, Fang Yuan covered her reddened cheeks and glared at Fang Ping angrily. His battle prowess was inferior, so he didn't manage to settle the score. Instead, his round face was pinched even rounder. Fang Ping was in a good mood after teasing her for a while. He did not continue to make her angry. Fang Ping fished out 100 yuan bill from his pocket and handed it to Fang Yuan as she stared at him in shock. "It's a holiday today. Don't just stay at home. I'm going out with my classmates to relax." There was still more than 220,000 in cash at home. Fang Ping took more than 20,000 and carried it with him. The remaining 200,000 yuan was still in his room. He was worried that this lass had nothing to do at home and would go to his room to explore his secrets. So he sent her away first. When he was on holiday tomorrow, he would deal with the cash. Whether it was buying a house or saving it in the bank, he couldn't just leave it at home. Fang Ping took out $100. To him, it was very, very little. However, for Fang Yuan, she had never received so much pocket money before. Other than during Chinese New Year, the little girl had never had more than $100 on her. Today, her stingy older brother had given her $100 to go out and play. The sun has risen from the west. Fang Yuan looked shocked. She could not help but ask, "Fang Ping, you haven't recovered from your illness from yesterday?" Fang Ping's expression darkened. He said impatiently, "Do you want it or not?" "So you've done something bad. Are you trying to bribe me? If you don't want it, I'll take it back." "I want it." Fang Yuan snatched the bill from Fang Ping's hand, her face full of joy. Then she chattered. "Did Mom give it to you?" "Mom's so biased. She always gives you more than me." "Fang Ping, you really gave it to me?" "You're not going to go back later, are you? How about I give you $10 for lunch?" Fang Ping pretended not to hear her and continued to eat his breakfast. When he was done, Fang Ping grabbed his bag and stood up. I'm going out for a walk to relax. Have a good lunch. Oh, you're not allowed to go out with boys. Only girls. Why do you have to go out with boys? Fang Yuan looked at him as if she was determined to go against him. Fang Ping did not mind. He pursed his lips and said, I was just saying. Which boy in your class is willing to go out with round face? It's not embarrassing enough. Fang Ping. One should not hit someone in the face, and one should not expose their shortcomings when scolding someone. However, Fang Ping had exposed their shortcomings. Fang Yuan was so angry that she wanted to smack him on the head. After teasing Fang Yuan for a while, Fang Ping grabbed his bag and walked out the door cheerfully before the little girl exploded in anger. Number 1 High School, Senior 3 Class 4. It had to be said that the martial science candidates were very hardworking. At least they came to school early. Fang Ping realized that every time he came, the other martial science exam candidates would have already arrived. The moment he arrived, he heard loudmouth Zhang Hao say excitedly, Zhobin went for a vitality test yesterday. 125 calories. That's amazing. Maybe someone from number 1 high school will get into the Big Two this year. Last year, the Big Two's admission standard was 125 calories, right? Zhang Hao asked. Big Beard Yang Jian nodded quickly and said, Magic City Martial Arts University's admission standard was 125 calories last year. Zhang Hao naturally knew that. He had only asked this to get someone to cooperate with him. When he heard this, he smiled quickly and said, There's still some time before the physical assessment. Take another vitality pill before the exam. I suspect that Zhou Bin's vitality test result will be 128 calories. God, can Zhou Bin really get into the Big Two? If he does, number 1 high school will be famous. Zhang Hao danced with joy. He was as excited as if his vitality had reached 125 calories. The other martial science candidates were either envious or nervous. Most of the normal social sciences candidates were envious, but they were not nervous. It had nothing to do with them anyway. Fang Ping, on the other hand, did not feel much when he walked in. Zhou Bin was the most powerful candidate in number 1 high school, but his vitality was only 125 calories. Fang Ping, on the other hand, had 124 calories. The difference between them was only 1 calorie, almost negligible. Fang Ping also had a lot of wealth. If his body could keep up, surpassing the other would be child's play. In reality, Fang Ping did not want to compete with these students at all. He was thinking about Wang Jinyang. Wang Jinyang was only 1 year older than him, but he was already preparing to break through to rank 3. Compared to Wang Jinyang, these year 3 students would not attract Fang Ping's attention no matter how high their vitality was. Fang Ping ignored their discussion. He picked up his book and started reading. He had been too tired the night before. He did not even have time to test the effects of his mentality increase. Vitality was not a problem for him to pass the martial sciences exams. Fang Ping's difficulty lay in his cultural studies. If his mentality increase was effective, it would be the foundation for him to pass the martial sciences exams. Fang Ping did not want to join the discussion, but Yang Jian, who was sitting in front of him, could not help but turn around and ask, Fang Ping, how many cal is your vitality now? I don't know. I didn't check it. Yang Jian was itching to know, but he did not really want to ask Fang Ping how much. Hearing Fang Ping's words, Yang Jian smiled sheepishly and said, Last night my dad insisted that I go to the hospital to check it out. I went with him, and my vitality increased by 1 calorie. It's 113 calories now. Fang Ping rolled his eyes. If he wanted to show off, then show off. Could he not smile sheepishly like an idiot? Fang Ping, do you think I can reach 115 calories if I take some medicine during the physical assessment? Fang Ping, You're probably higher than me. Why don't you go for the test tomorrow? Fang Ping's head hurt. This bearded man was too talkative. He did not listen to his nonsense. Fang Ping lowered his head and started reading, experiencing the effects of his mentality increase. After the morning reading session, Fang Ping closed his book and closed his eyes to think. The effects were not bad. Fang Ping did not know if 140 Hz mentality was considered powerful. The effects were obvious, though. His brain was exceptionally clear and active. Fang Ping had learned all the high school knowledge before. His results were not bad, so this could be considered revision. However, he had put it aside for many years. Revision was a process that required time. Now, however, Fang Ping's ability to understand and accept the knowledge he had learned was much stronger than a few days ago. He could recall much of the knowledge he had forgotten. This was still 140 Hz. After a few days, when he had gotten used to his current mentality, he would make some more improvements. When that time came, the effects would be even better. Fang Ping felt that he had already moved the last brick in the martial sciences exams. For the entire morning, Fang Ping absorbed the new and old knowledge hungrily. During his lunch break, Fang Ping went out for a while. He spent $10 on a bank card. He spent 1,200 yuan to buy a mobile phone and 100 yuan to get a SIM card. Without a cell phone, it was inconvenient to do many things. The first thing Fang Ping did after getting his cell phone and activating the SIM card was to text Wang Jinyang, Nanjiang Martial Arts University. Wang Jinyang, who had just arrived at the university, saw the string of numbers on his phone screen and laughed. This guy is interesting. Fang Ping had been so polite yesterday that he did not want the 1 million. Even if he wanted it, there was no hurry. Brother Wang could transfer the money whenever he was free. All in all, his words were very pleasant. However, less than a day had passed, and the guy had already sent him his card number. After laughing for a while, Wang Jinyang did not want to go back on his word. He went to the university bank and completed the transfer. In martial arts universities, 1 million was not a lot. It was not uncommon for the internal banks of martial arts universities to have hundreds of millions of transactions every day. After settling the matter of money, Wang Jinyang packed some of his teaching materials and a basic cultivation method book and sent it to Fang Ping by courier. He was not worried about losing it. It was fine even if he did. Without the foundation, cultivating recklessly would be suicide. At most, he would send Fang Ping another copy. Far away in Sun City, Fang Ping saw the notification on his phone. He could not contain his joy. How bright! Old Wang was indeed a straightforward person, even though the guy might have earned more than him this time. Chapter 36. After receiving Wang Jinyang's transfer of 1 million, Fang Ping's wealth had reached 37 million. Even if he increased his mentality and vitality to 200, it would only cost him a few 100,000 wealth. Fang Ping was overjoyed. Of course, his joy did not last long. Soon, Fang Ping felt an invisible wave of malice. How can a snob make me feel so good? Fang Ping muttered to himself. He felt that the source of this malice was the unreliable, snobbish system. Although it was only intuition, Fang Ping felt that intuition was still very reliable. Fang Ping was overjoyed at the increase in his wealth and funds. Fang Ping was looking forward to Wang Jinyang's subsequent text. The item has been delivered. Make sure to receive it. It was a short sentence, but Fang Ping read it again and again. Compared to money, Fang Ping was more interested in cultivation methods. It was not like he did not have money in his past life. Although it was not much, Fang Ping had earned quite a lot over the years. However, Fang Ping had never seen any cultivation methods other than those sold at street stalls. Even if he saw one, he would not cultivate it. No one would take it seriously. Fang Ping could not wait to get his hands on the package when he thought about the day after tomorrow. After school in the afternoon, Fang Ping rejected Wu Zhihao and the others' invitation to train together. Fang Ping was still familiarizing himself with his body and digesting what he had learned. Working out with them didn't help much. Fang Ping walked away alone. One of the students from class said uncomfortably, "Fang Ping is quite arrogant." Wu Zhihao did not mind. He smiled and said, "It's fine if he doesn't want to go. He never joined our activities before. He's probably used to it." After he said that, the others did not say anything else. The student who had spoken earlier asked curiously, "Zhihao, how high do you think his vitality is?" Everyone knew that Fang Ping's vitality had increased again. After all, Yang Jian was the only one who could not keep his mouth shut among the other three. Even Wang Jinyang had praised Fang Ping, so his vitality was not low. Wu Zhihao thought for a moment and said, "Maybe around 120 calories. That high?" Some of them looked envious, even jealous. Fang Ping had not been eye-catching before, but they did not expect his vitality to be 120 calories. Out of all the senior 3 martial science students in the school, only Zhou Bin and a top student from another elite class had a vitality of more than 120 calories. As for whether or not someone was concealing their strength, such a thing rarely happened. They were all students. Showing off was a common problem among students. It would be foolish to hide such a good result. "I'm just guessing, but the difference shouldn't be that big." Wu Zhihao looked at the others and said, "But it's best if we don't learn it. Otherwise, we won't even know how we die." Even if he could not pass the martial sciences exams, it was better than losing his life. "If I can't get in now, I'll just have to repeat a year. If I still can't make it, I'll just wait until I earn enough money to go to a martial arts training class." Everyone nodded. None of them had the guts to risk their lives to fight for an opportunity at this time. Naturally, Fang Ping was unaware of the discussion going on in class. Arrogance? He didn't think he was arrogant. It was just that he wasn't too familiar with those students. Moreover, the martial science examination was just around the corner. They did not even know if they would have the chance to interact with each other in the future, so there was not much use in trying to establish a relationship now. Lakeview Gardens. As soon as Fang Ping opened the door, Fang Yuan tiptoed out from her room and said softly, "Fang Ping, come in." Fang Ping did not know whether to laugh or cry. He was speechless. "You're a thief in your own home?" "Sure." Fang Yuan raised a finger to her lips and shushed him. She turned around cautiously to look at the backyard and said angrily, "Come in." Fang Ping could not help but laugh. He changed his shoes and entered his sister's room. Once inside, Fang Yuan closed the door hurriedly and stuffed a plastic bag into Fang Ping's arms. Before Fang Ping could check it, Fang Yuan said in a low voice, "I'll give you half. Don't ask me for money. I've exchanged $100 for food reserves. It's gone. Also, don't tell Mom. What if? I don't want my allowance this month. I'll give it all to you." Fang Ping did not say anything. He took the plastic bag and opened it. It was full of snacks. Fang Yuan was not generous with her money, but it was inevitable that children liked to eat snacks. Her parents rarely bought snacks for her. It was a waste of money and unhealthy for her body. In the past, whenever Fang Yuan had some pocket money, she would spend it on this. It was rare for her brother to be generous. Fang Yuan, who had $100 in her pocket, had only planned to buy snacks worth about $10. However, the girl's eyes blurred the moment she stepped into the snack shop. When she paid the bill, she realized that she had spent almost all of her $100, even though she had reduced her snacks by half. Afraid that Fang Ping would say she was wasteful, the girl thought about it for a long time and finally decided to split the spoils with her brother. Half for each of them. There should be no problem now, right? Fang Ping could not help but laugh when he saw how guilty she was. "Fine, I'll buy them. I don't eat them. I'll give them all to you." "No." Although the girl kept staring at the plastic bag in Fang Ping's hand, she still shook her head resolutely. "I'll give you half, or you'll tell on me. Do I have to do that?" Fang Ping rolled his eyes. What kind of person do you think your brother is? Girl. I'm filthy rich now. $100 is nothing to me. Moreover, Fong Ping was not a child. He did not have the habit of eating snacks. Fong Ping tossed the bag of snacks onto the bed and laughed. Keep it for yourself. I've earned some money recently. If you run out of pocket money, you can ask me for it. Some things needed to be divulged appropriately. Now that Fong Ping had bought a phone, he would have to rent or buy a house the next day. His parents were not at home most of the time, so there was no risk of him being exposed. Fong Yuan was different. She was always with Fong Ping, so divulging some information now could serve as a foundation. Fong Yuan asked curiously, "You've earned money?" "Yes." "How much?" "Don't ask me that. I'm not short of money, right now anyway." "How did you earn it? Did you work?" "No." "Then you—" Suddenly, Fong Yuan thought of something. She bared her fangs and brandished her claws, ready to fight Fong Ping. "Fong Ping, you're too much. You must have asked Wang Jinyang for his autograph and then sold it, right? That was my idea. I was wondering why you wouldn't let me talk to Wang Jinyang yesterday. So this was your plan. You're a villain, stealing the fruits of my labor." Fong Yuan was furious. She had been so grateful to her brother in the morning, and he had given her a huge sum of 100 yuan. He had used her idea and made a lot of money. Fong Ping was speechless. This girl's imagination was really good. He did not want to deny it, though. Since the girl was thinking that way, he would let her think it herself. Moreover, the money she made this time was indeed related to Wang Jinyang. Fong Ping did not deny it, so Fong Yuan thought that she had guessed correctly. She said with an annoyed expression, "Tell me the truth. How much did you sell it for?" "Not much. 1,000. Fong Yuan asked tentatively. "Haha, 2,000, eh?" "Haha." Fong Yuan inhaled sharply. No wonder her brother was so generous. He had earned more than 2,000. After a moment of shock, Fong Yuan's eyes darted around. Soon she smiled and said, "Brother, how about we split it 50-50? Oh, did I hear that right? What did you call me just now?" Fong Ping dug his ears, pretending that he did not hear it clearly. Brother, I said 50-50, okay? If not, 40-60 is fine too." The girl did not look embarrassed at all. He was her brother after all. Calling him brother would not cost her anything. Once she got her hands on Fong Ping's money, she would call him whatever she wanted. Fong Ping laughed. He waved his hand and said, "Don't get your hopes up. Besides, why do you need so much money? I'll give it to you when you run out of money. Also, please please me in the future. Don't call me Fong Ping so impudently." Fong Yuan was not happy that she could not split the money with her brother. However, considering that her brother was rich now, in the end, she smiled sweetly and nodded. She had made up her mind that she would empty her brother's coffers sooner or later. Fong Yuan was very friendly to Fong Ping, so much so that she even put food in his bowl. Her parents, who were eating with her, were stunned by the change in the girl. Although the two siblings had a good relationship, it was normal for them to argue. Since when did Fong Yuan learn to put food in Fong Ping's bowl? Fong Mingrong was a little jealous. He stopped drinking and knocked on his empty bowl, glancing at Fong Yuan a few times. He was obviously saying, "You're putting food in your brother's bowl. What about me?" Fong Yuan was a clever girl. When she saw her father's unfriendly attitude, she smiled sweetly and put food in his bowl. She also filled Li Yueying's bowl with rice. The atmosphere at dinner was very good because of her antics. The dinner was not too sumptuous, but the family ate happily. The family was happy and Fong Ping was in a good mood. When he trained at night, Fong Ping did 160 push-ups in one go, even though he could only do 100 times the day before. After he was done, Fong Yuan, who had been watching over him, almost cheered him on. Flattery was one thing. Fong Yuan thought that her brother was pretty awesome. Chapter 37. The next day, Sunday, Fong Ping, who had woken up early, did not try to trick his sister again. He knocked on the door on purpose. He washed up and changed into a set of slightly more mature clothes. Then he stuffed all the cash he had hidden in his room into his backpack. Today he was going to check out a house. It would be best if it had a gym. If it was cheap, he would buy one. If it was expensive, he would rent one. His house was too small, and he did not have any equipment. Fong Ping only had a few sets for his workout. Without the assistance of equipment, there were some movements that he couldn't do by himself. On top of that, he was about to get his hands on the cultivation method. He needed to find a more suitable environment to cultivate in. The downtown area of Sun City was not too big. Fong Ping did not want to buy a house in the suburbs. It was too far from number 1 high school and his house. It was inconvenient. Therefore, he could only choose a residential area that was not far from number 1 middle school and Lakeview Gardens. The neighborhood had to be new, and it would be best if it was well renovated so that he wouldn't have to renovate it himself. If he couldn't buy a deluxe room, a second-hand one would do. The environment must be good, and the housing must be cheap. With that in mind, Fong Ping did not have many choices. 7 or 8 minutes later, Scenic Lake Gardens. Scenic Lake Gardens was not far from number 1 middle school and Lakeview Gardens. It was located in the middle of the two and was slightly inclined. The residential area was officially opened in 2006, and residents only moved in 2007. It had been 2 years since the opening of the market, but the houses in Scenic Lake Gardens had not been sold out yet, and the sales department was still there. It was not sold out not because the environment was bad, but because the quality was not good. The main reason was that the demand for houses in Yong City was not that high at this time. In 2008, houses in big cities were in short supply, and real estate groups were not uncommon. However, Sun City was just a small city in the central region. Very few people would come to Sun City to speculate in real estate. It was not worth it. Real estate sales department. When Fong Ping walked through the door, it was very quiet inside. There was almost no one around. After all, the market had been open for 2 years, and the remaining houses were only some unfinished houses, so there weren't many of them. The employees who were chatting inside paused for a moment when they saw Fong Ping enter. After a while, a woman in her 20s wearing professional attire walked over. "Sir, which one do you like? If you want to see a house, I can accompany you." The staff member was quite friendly and did not mind Fong Ping's age. It was normal for someone of Fong Ping's age to be preparing for marriage. Since they were married, they naturally needed a wedding house. He did not ask Fong Ping if he wanted to buy a house, but asked him which one he had his eyes on. This was also a form of rhetorical skill. The houses in Scenic Lake Gardens had been sold for 2 years. Even the sales lady, who knew nothing at the time, was now experienced. As soon as the client entered the door, he immediately asked for his requirements and went to view the house. When the customer is hesitating, don't give the customer too many choices. You can't just set another trap right after seeing that one is not good. Some clients were the hesitant type. It would be bad if they saw too much, so they would hesitate even more. Most of the time, it was the first house that could be sold. Some customers had watched the first set dozens of times, but in the end, they still felt that the first set was better. This had become a habit. Also, young people like Fong Ping were easier to fool. If it were a middle-aged couple, that would be torture. As the sales lady thought about it, she skillfully repeated the words she had said hundreds of times. Fong Ping did not interrupt her. He waited for a while before asking, "Do you have any hardcover ones?" "Yes." The sales lady perked up. Only those who made requests like this were prospective clients. Those who came in did not say anything and only said that they were just looking around. In the end, most of them really did just that. After answering, the sales lady hurriedly walked to the side of the building models. She pointed at a few of them and said, "Buildings 8, 9, and 10 are all hardcover houses, but they're almost sold out now. Do you have any requirements for the floor?" There are still choices for the top floor and the first floor. For the middle and high floors, They're only building 1604 in Building 9 and 1801 in Building 10. In my opinion, the first floor is actually very good. Not only is it cheap, but it's also convenient to go in and out. The sales lady strongly recommended the first floor. Nowadays, the first floor and the top floor were harder to sell. The remaining floors of scenic lake gardens were mainly of these two types. Fong Ping listened for a while and thought for a while. The top floor is a duplex? There are duplexes, and there are also those with attics. There was not much difference between the two, but duplexes were taller, and those with attics were more oppressive. Fong Ping pondered. If he were to cultivate by himself, he might cause some commotion sometimes. The first floor was not so good. Passers-by could see him. The top floor with duplexes was much better. Wu Jihao's house was a duplex. If he caused a commotion on the second floor, it would not reach the ground floor. With the restrictions, Fong Ping did not have many choices left. Duplexes were not as popular now, and they were not cheap either. In scenic lake gardens, there were only 4 apartments on the top floor of Building 9 that were duplexes. 2 of them had been sold, and the remaining 2 were still empty. After the sales lady finished her introduction, Fong Ping said immediately, "Bring me there." "Okay, I'll get the key. Please wait for a moment." The sales lady was straightforward. She hurried to the counter to get the key, her heart filled with anticipation. Although Fong Ping was a man of few words and was young, people like him, who made a clear request before looking for a house, usually bought a house without hesitation as long as the price was right. The prerequisite was that he had money. A few minutes later, Fong Ping and the sales lady arrived at the top floor of Building 9. When the sales lady opened the door, Fong Ping felt that it was not bad as soon as he entered. There was plenty of light, and the layout was reasonable. It did not have the cramped feeling of a typical duplex. Some duplexes were designed to reduce the public space and maximize the use of it. The public space was very small, giving off a cramped and oppressive feeling as soon as one entered. The bigger the city, the more prosperous the residential area, the more it was like this. After all, the public space was only counted as the square footage of the first floor, not the size of the property ownership certificate. Duplexes with empty spaces were rarer the bigger the city. The duplexes that most people talked about were only double stories. The property prices in small cities like Sun City were not too high. Naturally, it was more suitable for living. Although it was said to be intricately decorated, it was actually just the flooring, walls, doors, and windows. There was nothing else. On the first floor was the living room, dining room, kitchen, bathroom, a bedroom, and a balcony that was not considered small. On the second floor were 2 bedrooms, a small study, a room that could be used as a gym, and a bathroom, other than the empty space in the living room, which was not counted as a 2-story building. All the rooms in the duplexes were counted as actual space. Fong Ping looked at it briefly and was quite satisfied. Although the decorations were simple, Fong Ping did not need to be too extravagant. He would not stay in Sun City for long. When he went to a martial arts university, the house would naturally be left to his parents. For now, it was fine as long as it was livable. Moreover, this place had been renovated for more than a year. The smell was not even needed. After looking around, Fong Ping went straight to the point. "How much is it?" "Sir, you have good taste." The sales lady praised Fong Ping first, then said immediately, "Unit 2601 is the best unit in our residential area. We don't count the empty space, so it's a free gift to you. Also, our duplexes in scenic lake gardens are different from other residential areas. Many residential areas are called duplexes, but they're just attics with very low floor heights. Adding the 2 floors together, a floor height of 3 to 4 meters is considered normal, and the space is oppressive. We're different. We follow the normal floor height layout, and the 2 floors have a ceiling height of 8 meters. The sales lady belittled the duplexes in other residential areas and praised scenic lake gardens for a while. She was not belittling them, but she had to make things clear before she quoted a price. The 2 duplexes in scenic lake gardens could not be sold because of the price. Many people were satisfied with apartments, but when it came time to buy them, they had a lot of problems. Other residential areas did not count the 2-story area, and other residential areas were cheaper. Now that Fong Ping was asking about the price, she naturally had to prepare in advance. After praising herself for a while, the sales lady finally got to the point. The area of the property is 186 square meters. The empty space is a gift to you. If we calculate it according to a normal 2-story building, the area is more than 230 square meters. The price is very good too. If you buy it now, we'll refund the deed tax and maintenance fund. Also, we're a deluxe unit. If you renovate it yourself, the renovation cost would be hundreds of thousands. But now we're the last unit, and the company hopes to sell it as soon as possible. The discount is even better. After trying to fool Fong Ping for a while, the sales lady felt a little defeated when she saw Fong Ping's indifference. Finally, she lowered her voice when she mentioned the price. The total price is $860,000. In 2008, $860,000 to buy a house in Sun City was not cheap at all. With that much money, one could buy a small villa in the suburbs. On average, it was more than $4,600 per square meter. The price of a house nearby was usually between 3,500 to 4,000 yuan. Even if it was a deluxe unit, this level of renovation was not too expensive. If it was 4,000 per square meter, the house would have been sold a long time ago. However, above 4,600, even if it was a duplex with an empty space, few people would be willing to buy it. After giving the price, the sales lady said hurriedly, "Sir, the one next to it is slightly smaller. The layout is similar to this one." Fong Ping waved his hand. It was his habit to spend money when he had it. At the moment, he had sufficient cultivation resources and did not have to worry about money. Now that he had money, he would, of course, enjoy it first. Fong Ping thought that this unit was not bad. After the renovation, 4,600 per square meter was relatively expensive. However, the neighborhood's environment was good, and the house type was not bad. He could afford the price. Compared to Wu Jihao's duplex, the one he was looking at was bigger, and the layout was more reasonable. Plus, money came easily. Fong Ping went out directly, just when the sales lady was a little disappointed. Fong Ping said as he walked, "Let's go to the sales department and talk about the price. If it's cheaper, I'll pay in full." As soon as he said that, the sales lady was overjoyed. Sure enough, young people were straightforward. She had brought people to look at this unit at least 10 times. However, she had never seen anyone as straightforward as Fong Ping. Chapter 38. The Sales Department. After confirming Fong Ping's intention to buy a house, the sales department's supervisor personally attended to him. Scenic lake gardens had been open for 2 years now. There were not many houses left, and the developers did not want to waste too much energy here. Especially for a full payment, the discount was not small. Full payment, 95% discount. Deed tax and maintenance fund were all exempted. After some calculations, the supervisor made the final decision, looking as if he had suffered a great loss. He said harshly, "Mr. Fong, pay 20% of the deposit now, and I can apply to the higher-ups for a discount." "Mr. Fong, you only have to pay 810,000 to get the house." 810,000, 186 square meters, hardcover. It was about 4,350 yuan per square meter. Even if it was cheaper for the developers to renovate, utilities, flooring, and walls alone were not cheap. In reality, the price was less than 4,000 yuan per square meter. The price of a duplex was not high. It was not expensive even when compared to the average residential area. End houses were cheap to begin with, and duplexes were slightly larger if they included the second floor. The rich in Sun City now lived in villas in the suburbs. There was no shortage of ordinary families willing to pay more than 800,000 yuan for a house in big cities, but there were very few customers in small cities. Even if they wanted to buy a duplex, people in Sun City preferred to buy the double-story houses that did not include the second floor. Fong Ping was distracted when the supervisor quoted the price. Right now, Fong Ping was thinking about Huang Bin. 3 rank, 1 vitality pills for 900,000. 3 rank, 1 vitality pills were just daily vitality supplements for a peak rank 2 martial artist like Huang Bin. If he was extravagant, he would have them in a month. If he was frugal, he would have 1 pill a month, and it would be gone in 3 months. To replenish his vitality, a rank 2 martial artist would eat a house that Fong Ping's parents could not afford in a lifetime. That was the difference between a normal person and a martial artist. A world of difference, especially a martial artist like Huang Bin, who was not doing very well among martial artists. As Fong Ping's mind wandered, the supervisor opposite him was a little nervous. Fortunately, Fong Ping recovered quickly and said, "I won't bargain, but you'll be in charge of all the paperwork. Be fast. We can sign the contract today. I'll pay 210,000 as a deposit first. I'll transfer the rest when the paperwork is done and the house is handed over." Hearing this, even the supervisor felt that this young man was really straightforward. No ambiguity, no long-windedness, and most importantly, money. If Fong Ping really wanted to grind it out, he might even be able to reach a final price of 800,000. However, it was easy for Fong Ping to earn money. If he wanted to bargain, judging by the way the supervisor was acting, he would have to apply to the higher-ups in the long run, who knew how long they would be delayed. Fong Ping had a lot on his plate at the moment. He had to prepare for the martial sciences exams, prepare for his cultural studies, and train his body. There wasn't much time left. For the sake of the 10,000 yuan, he might have to make several more trips. In Fong Ping's opinion, this was not worth it. Fong Ping was straightforward, and the sales supervisor was happy. The procedures for buying a house with full payment were very simple. There was no need for a mortgage, so the procedures were much simpler. Especially if Fong Ping was willing to pay a deposit of more than 20%, that would make things even easier. Soon, both parties signed the purchase contract. Fong Ping did not need to apply for a mortgage. He only needed to provide a copy of his ID and household register. Fong Ping had made preparations to buy a house when he left the house in the morning. He carried his ID with him and the household registration booklet he had found in his parents' room. He made a few copies on the spot. Fong Ping signed the purchase contract and the commission contract and took out 210,000 cash from his bag to pay. Both parties were in a hurry, so everything went smoothly. The only minor hiccup was when the supervisor saw Fong Ping's age on his ID and flattered him for a while. He knew that Fong Ping was young, but he was only 18 years old, which was even younger than he had imagined. If a young man of his age decided to buy a house on his own, it meant that his family was too rich to care about 1,000,000 or 800,000. Otherwise, it meant that the young man was capable and his family was not worried about the need to discuss the purchase. Of course, the second reason was that he had to be rich too. Either way, it proved that Fong Ping was extraordinary, at least in Sun City. In less than half an hour, the supervisor sent Fong Ping out with a smile on his face. "Mr. Fong, Scenic Lake Gardens has been open for 2 years. The procedures are very quick. With your commission contract, you don't even have to show up during the procedures. In a few days, when the property ownership certificate is ready, you can come and collect it directly. When the time comes, you can prepare the remaining payment and complete the handover." He reminded Fong Ping to prepare the money. Fong Ping did not have to worry about anything else. In this day and age, the rich were the masters. If you did not have the money, you would have to pay a mortgage. You would have to make countless trips to the bank. However, if Fong Ping paid in full, these troubles were not troubles at all. After sending Fong Ping out of the sales department for some distance, the supervisor turned around and left chuckling. Fong Ping was in a good mood after leaving the sales department. 810,000 renminbi to buy a large duplex was still within his range of affordability. He had more than one. $22 million on him now. Even after buying the house, he still had more than $400,000 left. After buying some fitness equipment, the remaining money would be enough for now. He also had a lot of pills on hand, enough for him to cultivate until he became a martial artist. Before becoming a martial artist, Fong Ping did not have to worry about money. After he became a martial artist, he would have the identity of a martial artist, and the system would have a grasp of the general trend. Fong Ping was not too worried that he would be troubled by money in the future. Fong Ping did not linger outside after he had settled the matter of the house. Perhaps Wang Jinyang's express delivery would arrive today. Fong Ping could not wait any longer. He returned home. Fong Yuan had just woken up and was watching television on the sofa. When she saw Fong Ping, she yawned and asked, "Fong Ping, where did you go so early in the morning?" This girl had obviously forgotten about yesterday's incident after waking up. She had already thought about calling him brother before emptying his little treasury. Now that she had called him by his name, it was obvious that she had not thought about it. Fong Ping did not argue with her. He said casually, "I went out for some fresh air. Have you had breakfast?" "Not yet." Fong Yuan opened her mouth and yawned again. "Did anyone send a delivery?" "I don't think so." Fong Yuan asked doubtfully, "Did you buy anything?" "Yes, some martial science textbooks." Fong Yuan lost interest when she heard that it was textbooks. She asked lazily, "What are we having for lunch?" She hadn't even eaten breakfast, but she was already thinking about what to eat for lunch. It was then that Fong Yuan remembered that Fong Ping still had a small treasury. Her brother had a little treasury, so it was only natural for him to have something delicious for lunch. Before Fong Ping could answer, Fong Yuan said happily, "Fong Ping, do you want to eat KFC? I've never eaten there before. I heard from my classmates that it's really delicious." What's so good about a foreigner's fast food? Fong Ping thought nothing of it. Fong Yuan's next words almost choked him to death. "Brother, go and try it. I heard that the president of KFC's parent company in Sino Nation is a rank 7 martial artist. If you eat their chicken wings, you might realize something and become a martial artist too." Cough, 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 Fong Ping choked. Were the two related? Fong Ping did not know that the president of Yuxing's Sino Nation was a rank 7 martial artist. Could it be that their chicken could cultivate martial arts and one could become a martial artist after eating it? Fong Ping did not know whether to laugh or cry, but he agreed in the end. It was not because of what his sister had said about becoming a martial artist after eating their chicken, but because of what she had said earlier. "I haven't eaten there before." Fong Yuan was in the 2nd year of middle school, 14 years old. For a girl of her age from a slightly better family, eating a few KFC meals was nothing. The Fangs were not well off, but they could still afford it. The main thing was that Fong Yuan was sensible. She had never mentioned it to her parents, so she only wanted to extort money from Fong Ping. Fong Ping did not have much pocket money before. Now that he was earning money, Fong Yuan felt that she had done a great service, so she wanted to extort money from her brother. Fong Ping still had more than 10,000 in cash on him. Taking his sister to a foreigner's fast food was not a big deal. After waiting at home for the whole morning, the express delivery did not arrive. Fong Ping did not wait any longer and brought Fong Yuan out for a meal. It was her first time eating KFC, so she was very excited. Everything she ate tasted good. Fong Ping, who did not have much of an appetite, was influenced by Fong Yuan and ate a lot too. The siblings spent more than 100 yuan on the meal. This was considered extravagant for Fong Yuan. She did not think much about it during the meal, but on the way home, she could not help but blame herself. "I'm not going next time. It's not good at all, and it's so damn expensive. Why did you eat so much just now if it's not good?" Fong Ping teased. Fong Yuan blushed and said stubbornly, "It's because you ordered too much. I was afraid it would go to waste, so I ate so much. You're not allowed to eat anymore. Also, you're too wasteful with money. Let me keep the rest of your money. I'll give it to you when you need it," Fong Ping glared at her. How could she say something like that? Now that the money was in this little miser's hands, it was almost impossible for Fong Ping to get it back. Of course, it was more likely that the girl would hand it over to her parents. That was very likely. Fong Ping ignored her. When he reached his house, he saw a delivery truck. Fong Ping hurried over and asked, "Is there a delivery for Block 6, 101? The delivery man was about to make a call when he heard that and sighed in relief. "I knocked on your door just now, but there was no one at home. I was about to call you. Coincidentally, you're from 101? Yes, I'm Fong Ping." "That's right. Please sign for it." After confirming Fong Ping's identity, the delivery man took out a cardboard box from the delivery truck. Fong Ping glanced at it and felt a little strange. Did a book need a box to carry it? As he signed for the delivery, Fong Ping moved the box. It was quite heavy, so it did not seem to be a book. Wang Jinyang did not say what he had sent him, and Fong Ping did not ask. Now, it seemed that old Wang might have sent more things. After signing for the delivery, Fong Ping moved the box home. His steps were quick, and his face was full of excitement. Chapter 39. In his room, Fong Ping shut the door tightly. 6 or 7 books were spread out on the desk. Basic cultivation method required. 16 styles of pole standing required. Basic fist techniques elective. Basic leg technique elective. Summary of cold weapons optional. Fong Ping was not in a hurry to look at the others. The first book he picked up was Basic Cultivation Methods. It was about the same size and thickness as a normal textbook. It was nothing like the thin booklet Fong Ping had imagined. When he opened the book, the first thing he saw was a line of small words on the title page. Martial artists dare to be the first. Fong Ping did not pay attention to the small words on the title page and continued reading. The first page of the Basic Cultivation Method was a detailed diagram of the human skeleton. The human skeleton was made up of 206 bones. These 206 bones were further divided into 3 parts: the skull, the torso, and the limbs. There were 29 skull bones, 51 torso bones, and 126 limbs bones. The human body used bones as the foundation. Flesh, blood, meridians, and internal organs were supplementary. From there, a complete human structure was constructed. For martial artists, vitality and bones complemented each other. If the bones were not strong enough, the human body would fall apart after a battle. Similarly, if the bones were strong enough, but the vitality was not strong enough, the bones would be rootless duckweed. If the outburst was not enough, it would not be sustainable. To become an official martial artist, first of all, one's vitality had to be strong enough to nourish the bones and flesh of the human body. A normal person's body limit was 150 calories. Above 150 calories, a stronger body was needed to withstand it. Therefore, under normal circumstances, when the vitality reached 150 calories and the 206 bones in the body were preliminarily honed, they could withstand a vitality outburst of 150 calories. At this point, normal people could choose to break through and become an official martial artist. 150 calories vitality, preliminarily honed bones, breaking through to martial artist. Fong Ping nodded as he read the explanations in the book. Soon, Fong Ping saw the handwritten words on the pages. These teaching materials were all Wang Jinyang's. He had also made personal notes during class. 150 calories vitality is the standard for the masses. Aspiring martial artists aim to break through the limits of the human body. What is the limit? When there is no more room for improvement. When there is no more room for improvement. When there is no more room for improvement. When the vitality stagnates for a long time. Choosing to break through before reaching the limit is a waste of talent. Among martial artists, there is nothing outstanding about them. Fong Ping did not know if this was Wang Jinyang's own opinion or the instructor's. According to Wang Jinyang, 150 calories vitality was the breakthrough line for aspiring martial artists. But even if it was a breakthrough, it would still be very mediocre. Fong Ping pondered for a moment, thinking that he would ask when he had the chance. Even if Fong Ping wanted to become a martial artist, he did not want to be the weakest. He could not afford to be beaten up by his peers every single time. In addition to vitality, the other was bone honing. Aspiring martial artists did not have high requirements for bone honing. As long as they could satisfy the vitality outburst, that would be enough. When aspiring martial artists officially broke through to rank, one martial artist would begin to pursue lethality. Rank 1 and 2 martial artists hone their limbs. Rank 1 martial artist could hone the bones of their upper limbs or lower limbs. Both were possible. It was just a minor difference in direction. Regardless of whether it was the honing of the upper limbs or the lower limbs, once the honing was completed, the martial artist would possess a strong single-target lethality. His bones were as hard as iron, and his vitality was like a rainbow. His hands and feet were comparable to cold weapons. At this time, it was common for a martial artist to kill an ordinary person with a single punch or kick. If one chose to hone the bones of the upper limbs first, there were a total of 64 bones in the upper limbs. After completing the honing, both hands and arms could be used as machetes, extremely powerful. After completing the honing of the upper limbs and achieving the required vitality, one could break through to rank 2 and begin to hone the 62 bones in the lower limbs. Similarly, those who hone the bones of the lower limbs first would have to hone the bones of the upper limbs after rank 2. The books also said that one should not look for trouble and only hone one side of the bones. Some students suddenly had an idea. Since the honing of the bones of the forelimbs could not be prioritized, how about honing one hand and one leg? It was not that there were no such people. In the end, some people were stuck at rank 1 for the rest of their lives. When their vitality declined, they were no different from deformed people. The seniors had taught everyone a lesson in blood. They could either focus on the bones of the upper limbs or the bones of the lower limbs. Peak rank 2 martial artists like Huang Bin had already completed the honing of the bones of the forelimbs. At this time, if Huang Bin had not been tricked by Fong Ping, his limbs could be used as weapons. It would not be difficult for him to kill Fong Ping with a kick. When Fong Ping had used a wooden stick to hack at Huang Bin had broken the stick with a punch even though his limbs were weak. After that, Fong Ping had knocked Huang Bin unconscious. One reason was because of the effects of the knockout drug, and the other was because Huang Bin's head and chest had suffered heavy blows. As for the bones of the forelimbs, even if Fong Ping had hacked at them many times, there were no signs of fractures. After completing the honing of the bones of the forelimbs, rank 3 martial artists focused on honing the bones of the torso. Peak rank 3 martial artists dared to face firearms head-on as long as they protected the vital parts of the brain. Although they would still be injured when bullets entered the body, it was rare for there to be fatal injuries, and they could still maintain their combat strength. Of course, if a bullet hit the head, they would still die. Those who were unlucky enough to be shot through the gaps between the bones and hit the vital parts of the internal organs would also die. However, relatively speaking, rank 3 martial artists had a much stronger defense than rank 1 and 2 martial artists, and the area of defense was also much larger. Martial artists in the 3 lower ranks aimed to hone the bones of the forelimbs and the torso. As for the skull, it was too dangerous. The book did not mention when to start honing. As for the cultivation of the realms above rank 3, the book did not mention anything about it. The basic cultivation methods focused on the cultivation of the lower 3 ranks. The book was not thin. Fong Ping could not finish it even after reading for a long time. However, most of the content after that was about honing the bones of the forelimbs and the torso, which had little to do with Fong Ping. Right now, Fong Ping only needed to understand the content at the beginning. Increase vitality, hone, and break through to become a martial artist. There was a chapter in the basic cultivation methods called The Methods of Honing that was prepared for aspiring martial artists like Fong Ping. When a vitality reached 110 calories, One could cultivate the methods of honing to hone their vitality and bones. It was difficult for aspiring martial artists to increase their vitality because it was superficial. It looked full and smooth, but there was no way to increase it. One of the effects of the methods of honing was to compress vitality. A vitality that was originally like a sponge could be compressed to allow the body to withstand stronger vitality. As the vitality was compressed, it flushed the external bones of the human body, allowing the bones to absorb vitality and strengthen the bones. At this point, there was no need for a deeper bone honing. When you felt that your vitality and bone strength could no longer increase, then you could consider breaking through to become a martial artist. However, this kind of breakthrough was riskier. Some people thought that they had reached their limit, that their bones were strong enough to withstand the impact of vitality. In reality, they were not polished to perfection. If they did not have enough vitality when breaking through, it would be difficult to break through the bottleneck. If the impact of vitality exceeded the endurance of the bones, then it was really dangerous. Every year there were people who would explode and die. The combination of the methods of honing and pole standing can hone the bones more effectively. After reading the explanation in the introduction of the methods of honing, Fong Ping picked up another compulsory book, 16 Forms of Pole Standing. This book talked about the style of pole standing. There were many types of pole standing, and the book listed the 16 most commonly used pole standing skills. After years of experimentation, these 16 might not have the best effects, but they were the most stable and the easiest to cultivate. Some pole standing skills had good effects, but they were difficult to learn. Just learning it would take anywhere from 3 to 5 years to 8 to 10 years. Even if the final effect was better than other pole standing skills, after 8 to 10 years of training, when others were already rank 3 or 4, and you had not even started martial arts, it would be a waste of time. Fong Ping did not read it in detail. He skimmed through the names of the 16 types of pole standing. Unbounded stance, perfectly round stance, 3 postures horse riding stance. Every pole standing technique had a detailed introduction, basic training methods, graphic explanations, and a summary of the content. Among the 16 types of pole standing, one could choose one. The differences between them were not too great, but there were differences in emphasis. Some focused on the lower limbs, some on the upper limbs, and some on both, but the results were not as good, and it took longer. After skimming through it briefly, Fong Ping did not continue reading. He closed his eyes and thought for a moment. Then he said softly, "The methods of honing, pole standing, and supplements are the main cultivation methods for aspiring martial artists, including martial artists. Aspiring martial artists don't have to think about actual combat. Actual combat courses are only taught when you become an official martial artist. It includes fist techniques, leg techniques, cold weapons. You can choose any of these. There's no choice for the methods of honing, but for pole standing, you can choose one that's related to the follow-up. When you reach rank 1, you can choose one that's related to honing your upper or lower limbs. If you choose a different pole standing at this time, your progress in rank 1 might differ. My goal is to hone my bones, so I don't care about vitality. Bone honing, on the other hand, mainly consumes vitality to nourish the bones. If that's the case, Fong Ping's eyes suddenly lit up. When normal people hone their bones, due to insufficient vitality, it was difficult to achieve results in a short period of time. Even if he took medicine to replenish his qi and blood, there was still a period of digestion and assimilation. Under normal circumstances, an ordinary person would need more than half a month to absorb and digest a vitality pill. If one ate too much, it was easy to develop resistance, but that was for ordinary people. Every time the system replenishes my vitality, it's like it's increasing out of thin air, merging with my original vitality. Does this mean that I don't have to worry about vitality replenishment when I hone my bones? Once his vitality was insufficient, he would immediately increase his vitality. For many people, the shortest was 3 months and the longest was 3 to 5 years. If I temper day and night without considering the replenishment of vitality, can I complete the bone honing stage in a short time? There's no need to worry about vitality. Bone honing can be accelerated as long as my physique is up to standard. Fong Ping's eyes shone brightly. Perhaps his ideas were feasible. If that was the case, he might be able to break through to become a martial artist very soon. Meanwhile, martial artists in the 3 lower ranks focused on honing their bones. Did this mean that he could do it again next? Complete the tempering of his limbs and torso in the shortest time possible? Maybe I can give it a try. Fong Ping, whose vitality had reached 120 calories and above, was now qualified to cultivate cultivation methods. Chapter 40. The cultivation of the methods of honing could be said to be difficult, but at the same time, it was not that difficult. Being literate was not enough to cultivate a cultivation method. The general knowledge test in high school was actually to pave the way for cultivation. The methods of honing involved the circulation of the human body's blood system, as well as a clear understanding of the body's meridians and bones. If one did not even know the vitality circulation system, it would be useless even if they obtained the cultivation method. However, this was only a basic cultivation method. The so-called basic cultivation method was, of course, for universal education. Therefore, it did not involve too many things. The vitality circulation system was also based on the meridians. Under normal circumstances, even if the cultivation went wrong at the beginning, one would not die, but injuries were unavoidable. Fong Ping was not qualified to go berserk yet. With his 124 calories vitality, even if he went to the wrong meridian when condensing his vitality, the impact would not be that great. Compared to raising his vitality by 10 calories in one go, the risk of his vitality going wrong was even lower. Fong Ping was still a little worried before cultivating. After some thought, he took out his phone and gave Wang Jinyang a call. Nanjiang Martial Arts University. Wang Jinyang had been cultivating his body and mind for the past few days, preparing to break through when he was at his peak. When he received the call and heard that Fong Ping wanted to cultivate now, Wang Jinyang could not help but frown. After a moment of thought, Wang Jinyang said, "You can cultivate the methods of honing. Even if there are some problems at the beginning, it won't be too serious." But Fong Ping strained his ears to listen. "There are some things I have to remind you of. First, cultivate the methods of honing now. Condense your vitality and hone your bones. All these will consume your vitality. Vitality doesn't come out of nowhere. Even if you can regenerate it, it won't be able to keep up with the rate of consumption. Once you cultivate the methods of honing, your vitality's upper limit will increase, but your actual vitality will decrease. And the decrease will be huge. If you can't replenish it, your Gaokao will be near, and the physical assessment will be a big problem. Your priority should be the martial sciences exam, not cultivation." Fong Ping frowned. "Vitality will decrease?" "Of course." Wang Jinyang laughed. "Bone honing requires vitality, and honing meridians requires vitality as well. Don't you think it's a lot? If you have 120 calories of vitality now, after one round of cultivation, it may drop to 115 calories. Although the speed of vitality recovery was faster than the speed of growth, even if one ate a normal vitality pill, it would still take more than 3 days to recover. How much was one normal vitality pill for 3 days? How many families are there to support? If he couldn't keep up with the replenishment, his vitality would plummet, and he wouldn't be able to recover. Then the upper limit that he had raised through cultivation would slip away very quickly. Fong Ping, you do have some resources. However, his resources were limited, and he couldn't use them recklessly. In my opinion, entering a martial arts university is the best time to cultivate. The school can provide half of the resources for your cultivation. It's just a delay of a few months. It's better than spending all your money. Fong Ping did not pay too much attention to this. After some thought, he asked, then if the vitality replenishment can keep up, can the upper limit of vitality be increased? Yes, of course. Otherwise, how could the methods of honing increase an aspiring martial artist's vitality to the limit? You just said that it's number one. Apart from that, what other disadvantages are there? Second, Wang Jinyang sounded more serious than the first time. He said in a deep voice, secondly, with your qi and blood, cultivating the method of honing won't cause too much damage. But that doesn't mean there won't be any damage. If the main meridians, especially those near the brain, are injured, even if they can be cured, you'll be bedridden for months. Fang Ping, it's almost the Gaokao. Be careful. The first time you cultivate is the most dangerous. If you're seriously injured, you might miss the Gaokao. It's fine if your capillaries rupture. With your vitality's recovery ability, you can recover quickly. But you can't hurt the main meridians. Brother Wang, I'll be careful, Fang Ping replied hurriedly. Wang Jinyang knew that Fang Ping had made up his mind. He shook his head and said, it's up to you. If you're really injured, you can come back next year. One will delay you for a year, and the other will delay you for a few months. Just think about it carefully. Wang Jinyang was not Fang Ping's father. Naturally, he would not try to persuade him again when Fang Ping insisted. After saying this, Wang Jinyang continued, the other thing is the choice of pole standing. There are 16 pole standing skills. Have you thought about which one to choose? I really don't have any good ideas. Brother Wang, can you recommend one to me? It mainly depends on the direction you choose for rank 1. Wang Jinyang paused before saying, rank 1, focusing on the upper limbs. It's more stable and conforms to the norm. Focusing on the lower limbs means you can fight and run, and your lower body is stable. However, honing the lower limbs is a little dangerous. If you're injured, you'll easily become a cripple. In martial arts universities, you can often see some rank 1 cripples running around the campus. Their image is ruined. If you injure the upper limbs, it's not obvious. If you injure the lower limbs, it's normal to be unable to walk sometimes. Are rank 1 martial artists who hone the lower limbs stronger than those who hone the upper limbs stronger? This varies from person to person. It depends on the actual situation. However, under the same conditions, martial artists who hone the lower limbs can run away even if they can't win. It's hard for martial artists who hone the upper limbs to catch up. At this point, Wang Jinyang suddenly laughed. When I was rank 1, I honed the lower limbs so I can run very fast. I fought with a senior who had just entered rank 2. He was a rank 1 martial artist who had just started honing the lower limbs. In the end, I dragged him down. Wang Jinyang told this to Fang Ping casually as an amusing anecdote. In reality, it caused quite a commotion. The two of them fought for real. Wang Jinyang brought the senior around Nanjiang Martial Arts University for more than 30 rounds. In the end, the senior was so tired that he was foaming at the mouth. He could not catch up no matter what. The senior was so angry that he swore that he would never meet Wang Jinyang again until he was done honing his lower limbs. Fang Ping naturally did not know about these inside stories. When he heard that honing the lower limbs was better than the upper limbs, Fang Ping said hurriedly, Brother Wang, what stance do you think is suitable for me to hone my lower limbs? The horse riding stance. It's the first choice for martial artists who hone their lower limbs. The two of them discussed cultivation for a long time. Wang Jinyang was not impatient. If he did not explain things clearly, Fang Ping could easily cause problems if he messed around. If he was really injured and missed this year's Gaokao, a gap of 1 year was not that easy to catch up with. In Wang Jinyang's opinion, Fang Ping did not need to rush. He could think about it after he entered a martial arts university. He could save some resources. If Fang Ping used the resources he had sparingly and added to the school's quota, he could achieve rank 2. However, if he spent lavishly by himself, he might run out of resources after rank 1. If he wanted to find another Huangbin, he would need the right time, place, and people. Where else could Fong Ping find such a good opportunity? The phone call went on for close to an hour. It had to be said that Wang Jinyang was quite a good friend. He had benefited a lot from Fong Ping, and old Wang's after-sales service was also very good. After hanging up, Fong Ping took a few deep breaths. At 3 p.m., Fong Ping began his first official cultivation. He had a general idea of the cultivation method. Even if he made a mistake, he would be bedridden for the next 2 days. He would be fine as long as he did not attack his main arteries. Without the ability to use internal vision, Fong Ping could only rely on his feelings. After taking off his shirt, Fong Ping focused on cultivating according to the methods of Honing's illustrations while observing the meridians in his body. When his vitality was condensed, the meridians that usually did not stand out would soon show up where his vitality was stronger. It's a little painful. This is my first time cultivating. My body's meridians aren't used to it. It'll be fine after the first time. The human body has unlimited potential. Fong Ping kept summarizing his gains and losses. When his vitality was condensed near his temples, Fong Ping felt a little nervous. If his blood vessels burst in other places, it would not be too dangerous. However, if any of the blood vessels near his brain burst, he would be in deep trouble. In the methods of Honing, there were very few meridians that flowed through the brain. There was only one main meridian. Fortunately, the basic cultivation method followed the fixed circulation system and did not open up minor meridians. Soon, Fong Ping successfully passed through the main meridian in his brain. Half an hour later, Fong Ping successfully completed the first round of Honing. It went smoothly. Fong Ping grimaced. Although he said it went smoothly, he was cursing in his heart. At this moment, his body was covered in blood. The main meridian was fine, but some of the capillaries had ruptured, causing his body to bleed. If Fang Yuan or Li Yuang were to walk in at this time, they would probably be in tears. After the first round of Honing, Fong Ping felt that the previously swollen and painful blood vessels were much more relaxed. As for the bleeding, so be it. He had a lot of vitality anyway. Fong Ping focused on the interface to see if his vitality had decreased this time. Wealth, 3370800 vitality. 120 cal mentality, 140 hertz. It decreased by 4 calories. If it were someone else, a normal vitality pill might not even be able to make up for it. In other words, 100,000 is gone in one round of cultivation. Fong Ping felt a headache coming on. He now understood why there were so few candidates who became martial artists before the Gaokao. Even if all the conditions were met, spending money was no different from running out of water. Unless one was from a wealthy family, who would be willing to spend so much money? Moreover, it was dangerous. Only martial artists could obtain cultivation methods. Most high school students did not have the opportunity. Fong Ping did not have these concerns, though. Wang Jinyang was worried that he would use up all his resources. In reality, Fong Ping did not plan to use the pills. Without hesitation, Fong Ping focused on increasing his vitality. Wealth, 3365800 vitality. 125 cal mentality. 140 hertz. My limit has increased by 1 calorie. Fong Ping's eyes brightened. Increasing his limit by 1 calorie in one round of cultivation was not slow at all. Of course, this was for him. Other students needed about 3 days to recover their vitality. Increasing it by 1 calorie every 3 days would cost him 100,000. Not many people were willing to try it. When I recover my vitality, there's no digestion period. Other people cultivate once every 3 days. But as long as my body can take it, I can do as many times as I want. So, this is how the system works. Old Wang, rank 3 is nothing. Just you wait, I'll scare you to death. Chapter 41. Bang, bang, bang. Just as Fong Ping was feeling smug and ready to try cultivating again, bang, bang. The door was being smashed. Fong Ping did not have to ask to know who had this unique way of knocking. as expected. Fong Yuan banged on the door and shouted, "Fong Ping, what are you doing?" Giggling and panting, "Don't you know it's very perverted? I'm warning you, you won't get a wife if you're so perverted. I'm still so young. Don't lead me astray." Fong Ping's face turned green. "What did I do? I'm just cultivating. How did I lead you astray?" Fong Ping understood when he recalled what the girl had said. He yelled with a dark expression, "What the hell are you talking about? Who's being perverted? Who's leading a child astray? I'm seriously training my body and my martial arts. Do you understand?" Fong Yuan sneered, "Who are you trying to fool? Can't you cultivate in the yard?" "I don't care. You're not allowed to pant. It sounds so perverted." Fong Ping wanted to cry, but no tears came out. He was even more certain that he needed to cultivate somewhere else. The soundproofing in this old house was almost non-existent. He had just cultivated the methods of honing, and his vitality was surging. It was normal for him to take a breather. However, Fong Yuan heard him loud and clear from outside the door. Who knew what the girl was thinking about him? Hiding in the room in broad daylight, panting and giggling like a fool, Fong Ping thought about it and realized that he was up to no good. He had wanted to try cultivating pole standing, but he did not want to do it now. Pole standing cultivation was much more disruptive than the methods of honing. He did not know what the girl would think when that happened. Fong Ping changed his clothes after tidying up a little. Because some of the blood vessels had burst, his pants were stained with blood. After changing, Fong Ping took his dirty clothes to the washroom. He wanted to wash up before his mother came back, so that his parents would not worry. Unexpectedly, his actions confirmed Fong Yuan's suspicions that her brother was up to no good. "Fong Ping, you should find a girlfriend." "Sigh, all the boys in our class have girlfriends. You're still single. It's fine if you're single, but you're also secretly hiding in your room to look at those unhealthy things. This is very bad. Aren't you ashamed to be seen by Mom and Dad?" "Fong Ping, why don't I introduce you to someone?" "Shut up." Fong Ping's expression darkened. As he rubbed his clothes, he yelled, "Stop hanging out with your scoundrel friends. How old are you? What are you thinking?" "I'm only 18. What's a single dog?" "I'm training, do you understand?" "TCH, forget it. If you don't want to admit it, then don't admit it." Fong Yuan had an indifferent expression on her face as she mumbled, "You're taking my kindness for granted. My classmate's sister is very pretty, Fong Yuan." Fine. I'll shut up, all right?" Fong Yuan's look of, "I'm not going to hurt you anymore," hurt Fong Ping's heart. "I really didn't watch any porn. I didn't read any magazines about girls who were too poor to afford clothes. And I didn't read anything else. I'm cultivating, training." Fong Ping felt a little helpless. Forget it. If he did not explain, he would not be able to explain to this girl. At night, Fong Ping did not continue cultivating the methods of honing. Instead, he picked up the 16 forms of pole standing and started reading, especially the horse riding stance. If one practiced martial arts without skills, all their efforts would come to naught. The skills in this referred to pole standing. If one stance was not good and his foundation was not strong enough, it would not only affect his bone honing and meridian honing, but it would also affect his combat ability. In martial arts universities, martial artists who achieved great success in pole standing had a nickname, roly-poly man. If one stance was good, one could not be pushed or beaten down. If one could not win a fight, one could pester one to death. The horse riding stance was named as such because it was like riding a horse. The horse riding stance was divided into 3 levels. First, stand firm. If one stance was stable, one could not be pushed down. Second, stand firm. If one's feet were as solid as a rock and rooted to the ground, one could not be beaten down. Third, stand in the air. One level of stand in the air was how the name roly-poly man came to be. When standing in the air, one's center of gravity could be adjusted at will. If one's center of gravity was unstable, it was easy to fall. If one's center of gravity was stable and adjusted at will, one could not be pushed, hit, kicked, or grabbed. A martial artist's combat ability did not depend solely on their rank. If a martial artist with a good stance fought with a high-ranked martial artist, even if he could not break through their defense or beat them, he could still dodge them. Moreover, standing in the air could strengthen one's bones and tendons, speeding up the process of honing one's bones. Cultivating pole standing in conjunction with the methods of honing yielded excellent results. Of course, the vitality depletion was also shocking. Fang Ping read through the information for a while. He tried standing in the horse riding stance for a while. In just 5 minutes, Fang Ping was trembling all over and sweating profusely. Standing in the air was more difficult than he had imagined. 10 minutes later, Fang Ping was shaking like a sieve. His legs were trembling badly. If someone were to push him from the front, Fang Ping would definitely not be able to stand. This meant that he was still a long way from having a stable stance on the first level. Flat chest, round back, straight top of head, Fang Ping was sweating profusely as he recited the key to standing in his heart. Soon he was panting like a bull and slumped to the ground. He was already exhausted even without using the methods of honing stance. Once he used the methods of honing, Fang Ping felt that he would not be able to multitask. Then he focused his attention on his own data. Wealth, 3365800 vitality, 122 calories mentality, 135 hertz. Fang Ping's expression changed slightly. This time, not only did his vitality decrease, but his mentality as well. Does it consume mentality? He mumbled. Fang Ping could more or less understand why his mentality had decreased. Concentrating while standing in the air consumed a lot of energy. Both his vitality and mentality were depleted. After some thought, Fang Ping began to recite to increase his mentality and vitality. Wealth, 3357800 vitality, 125 cal mentality, 140 hertz. It's more exhausting than I thought. In less than a day, he had used up 13,000 wealth. Initially, he had thought that even if he increased both attributes to 200, it would only cost him a few 100,000 wealth. Now that he thought about it, he had been too optimistic. Vitality and mentality were not fixed. They would be depleted with exercise and cultivation. At this time, normal people would sleep, eat, and take medicine to recover. If Fang Ping did not want to waste time, he could only use his wealth to recover. Every time he recovered, he would use up a lot of wealth. More than 3 million wealth might seem like a lot, but at this rate, how long could it last? Unless Fang Ping gave up on leveling up quickly and slowly recovered through sleep and food like everyone else. Using a stance in conjunction with the methods of honing will only increase the consumption. Normal aspiring martial artists take a long time to recover and consume a lot of resources in one cultivation. No wonder casual martial artists were rare. Normal people could only rely on grinding slowly. However, as they grew older and their bodies solidified, it would be harder to break through their limits. When they were young, other than relying on family support, young people did not have the capital to cultivate. However, how many families could afford to spend so much money? Even if the methods of honing and stance were given to people like Wu Jihao, they might not dare to cultivate it. His wealth was depleting faster than Fang Ping had imagined. For the next 2 days, Fang Ping read in class during the day and practiced his stance at night. On Tuesday night, after he had finished cultivating the methods of honing, Fang Ping looked at his stats again and felt a little lost. Wealth, 3320800 vitality, 126 cal mentality, 142 hertz. His vitality limit and mentality limit had both increased. However, what followed was a huge consumption of wealth. From the initial 37 million, Fang Ping had used up 50,000 wealth in just 2 to 3 days. The effect was that his vitality had reached 126 calories, Fan Ping had a feeling that it would not be a problem to increase it to 127 calories now. An average increase of 1 calorie of vitality would require at least 20,000 wealth. This was when his vitality was not high. He would only increase it when his vitality reached the limit, 150 calories. According to Fan Ping's estimation, the consumption might be even higher. I was too naive. Fan Ping laughed at himself. He had been so smug earlier, thinking that a few 100,000 wealth could help him break through 200 calories. Now he understood completely. The system was a big scam. I'm increasing it at about 1 calorie a day. Fan Ping did some calculations. After some thought, he increased his vitality again. After spending 1,000 wealth, his vitality reached 127 calories. Fan Ping moved his body. He felt that the pressure was not too great, so he was satisfied. If he increased 1 calorie every day, he might reach the lowest vitality of a martial artist, 150 calories, by the time of the physical assessment. Of course, he could not be sure if he would reach this speed in the future. As for whether he should expose such a high vitality, that would depend on the situation. It was hard to increase vitality, but easy to consume. If Fan Ping did not want to be noticed, he would cultivate deeply before the physical assessment. His vitality would be depleted, and it would not be difficult to reduce it to 120 calories. Just as he was about to wash up, the phone he had tossed aside vibrated. Fan Ping picked up the phone and glanced at it. As soon as he picked up the call, he recognized the voice of the sales department supervisor from before. Mr. Fong, sorry to disturb you. The paperwork for your house is done. If it's convenient tomorrow. Okay, I'll be there tomorrow afternoon. Fan Ping lowered his voice and replied in a low voice. He did not bother to exchange pleasantries with the attentive supervisor and hung up. Scenic Lake Gardens was not slow. The contract was signed on Sunday, and it was only Wednesday tomorrow. The paperwork was all done. When he got the house, he would buy some fitness equipment and some other necessities. This was not a small amount of money. After deducting the house payment, he still had more than 410,000 in cash. After buying the things, he would probably have less than 400,000. Spending money like water. Fan Ping sighed. He understood very well why those high-ranked martial artists were so desperate to earn money. He, who was not even a martial artist, spent a lot just to cultivate. And this was with the system's help. Those who did not have the system's help had a shocking daily expenditure. Without money, it would be difficult to maintain their current level, let alone cultivate. I still need to earn money. Chapter 42. Wednesday. Fan Ping went straight to Scenic Lake Gardens as soon as his morning classes ended. The sales department. Fan Ping made the final payment and received his documents and keys. He went to check the house, which was considered a done deal. After making the final payment, Fan Ping was left with about 410,000 points in his savings and cash. The sales staff left. Fan Ping felt much more relaxed now that no one was around. Fan Ping was in a good mood as he walked around the empty house alone. It had only been a few days, and he had already bought a big house. Fan Ping thought it would be interesting to see Fang Yuan's reaction when she found out that he had bought a big house. Fan Ping did not plan to tell his family, though. Even if he did, he would have to wait until the Gaokao was over. Once he passed the martial sciences exams, he would have an excuse to say that he had earned it from working with Wang Jinyang or that a large corporation had invested in him in advance. His parents would be worried if his family found out. I'll buy some fitness equipment, but not furniture for now. I'll need a sofa, table, and chairs. Or I won't even have a place to sit. Oh, I'll need a bed too. I might stay here. After thinking about what he needed to buy, Fan Ping did not delay and left the house. An hour later, Fan Ping walked out of the biggest furniture store in the city. He had ordered everything he needed and paid the deposit. They would be delivered to his door in 2 days. He did not buy the best sofa, table, and chairs as long as they were usable. However, the fitness equipment Fong Ping chose was above average. Even if he used them up, he could leave them for Fong Yuan to use. It would not be a waste. The sofa, table, and chairs did not cost much, but the equipment cost a lot. After a quick calculation, he would only be left with 390,000 yuan after paying the bill. After returning to school, Qin Fan asked curiously, "Fong Ping, why do I feel like you've been elusive lately?" In the past, if Fong Ping did not come home in the afternoon, he would not go home either. The two of them would go to the cafeteria or eat out most of the time, but he rarely saw Fong Ping recently. "I've been a little busy lately. Although you've signed up for the martial sciences exams, they're hard. Don't slack off on cultural studies," Qin Fan reminded him again patiently. Fong Ping nodded with a smile. He would only say this if they were friends. If it were someone they did not know well, they would be glad if Fong Ping did not study. As the two of them were talking, Yang Jian, who was sitting in the front row, turned around and said, "Fong Ping, want to train together tonight?" For the past few days, Fong Ping had been digesting the effects of the vitality increase. He didn't have time, and he didn't feel the need to train with them. But now that he had learned the cultivation method, he found it difficult to practice his stance or cultivate at home these few days. There was nothing at the new house, and Fong Ping did not want to go there for the time being. It was not a bad idea to take this opportunity to see how others trained. After some thought, Fong Ping nodded. "All right, let's go together tonight." Yang Jian had only mentioned it casually. Fong Ping had declined the previous few invitations. He did not expect Fong Ping to agree to his request so easily. Yang Jian did not know how to react. However, Yang Jian quickly grinned and said, "All right, then let's go together after school." "Fong Ping, there will be a lot of people there when the time comes. Many of the top students in the school will also be training there. Taking a look at other people's training methods might be helpful to you." All right, the two of them had agreed to meet up after school, so they didn't talk much and started to wait for the teacher to start the class. Soon the afternoon class ended. Some of the liberal arts students still had evening self-study sessions, but martial science students like Fong Ping would not. Wu Zhihao and the others knew that Fong Ping was going to join the group training tonight. As they walked out, Wu Zhihao said with a smile, "Fong Ping, you haven't been to the gym before, have you? It'll definitely be an eye-opener for you." The gym he was referring to was a gym built by No. 1 High School, specially prepared for martial science students to train their bodies. Not every student could have their own gym. Even if they did, the atmosphere would be different. Wu Zhihao could train at home, but he preferred to go to the gym with everyone else. Although it was a little messy when there were more people, everyone would be motivated to train if they could compare with each other. Training alone was boring and boring. Many people could not stand the loneliness. Fong Ping laughed when he heard that. "An eye-opener? Don't tell me other people can play tricks when they train?" Before Wu Zhihao could say anything, Zhang Hao chuckled. "Fong Ping, you don't get it, do you? Not all martial science students are guys. There are quite a few girls, too. When they train, do they wrap themselves up like dumplings?" TSK, you'll know when you see them." Before he could finish, Zhang Nan, one of the two female martial science students from class 4, said angrily, "Don't be so perverted. Do you think Fong Ping is like you? Staring at girls all the time is a disgrace to our class." Zhang Hao did not mind. He smiled at Fong Ping. "Do you understand what Zhang Nan said? Let's not stare at girls from other classes. Just stare at her. Get lost." Zhang Nan rolled her eyes. "Don't be so mean. The fiercer you are, the less I dare to look. You'll lose out if no one looks. Zhang Hao, are you looking for a beating?" The two of them bickered every day, so the others were used to it. Wu Zhihao ignored them. He smiled as he walked. Don't listen to Zhang Hao's nonsense. Looking at girls is one of the benefits, but that's not the point. There are many top students from other classes in the gym. Some of them have their own ways of training. We can watch from the side. If it's effective, we can use it. But we're pretty much set now. Fong Ping, you can watch and learn from us systematically. Fong Ping nodded. They arrived at the entrance of the gym as they chatted. There were people on duty in the gym. It was not open to the public. However, students from No. 1 high school, regardless of whether they were from the civil or martial sciences, could enter. Of course, there was a fee. The fee was not high. It was $2 per session, and there was a fee for long periods of time. Fong Ping paid, but the others did not. Those who came for a long time could apply for a monthly pass. The fee was actually to prevent too many people from coming in like a swarm of bees. $2 was not much, but if they were not here to train, they would not waste money just to watch the fun. On the second floor of the gym, Fong Ping felt a wave of heat as soon as he entered. There was a cacophony of voices and shouts. The layout was similar to a normal gym, but the people inside were all young boys and girls. As soon as Wu Zhihao and the others arrived, someone shouted, "Zhihao, over here!" "Zhihao, let's compete." "Yang Jian, what's your vitality now?" They were all from the same school. There were less than 300 martial sciences candidates in No. 1 high school, and there were even fewer frequent students, less than 200. Wu Zhihao's vitality was not low, and he was one of the best among them. Many knew him. Hearing the greetings, Wu Zhihao chuckled and said, "We're not competing today. We'll train by ourselves." Fong Ping asked in a low voice, "What are we competing in?" "Nothing much. We're just here to join in the fun. We'll compete in push-ups, pull-ups, and sometimes we'll compare how much we can pull," Wu Zhihao explained casually and brought Fong Ping and the others to an area with fewer people. The others had their own plans. They each found an empty machine to help with their training. Wu Zhihao found an empty comprehensive trainer and guided Fong Ping in his training. Although Fong Ping knew how to use it, old Wu was a kind man, so Fong Ping could not refuse. He looked around while listening to Wu Zhihao's explanations. There were many people on the second floor of the gym, but the place was big enough that it did not look crowded. There were many girls among them, and they would not wear much when training. To be honest, Fong Ping was not interested. He did not find it attractive either. If it were a beach, Fong Ping might have taken a few more glances at a group of beautiful high school students. Now, however, they were all sweating profusely. The smell of the girls' sweat was not as fragrant as the boys', so he would not stick to them. As Wu Zhihao guided Fong Ping on how to use the equipment, he said in a low voice, "There's also a third floor in the gym." There aren't many people on the third floor, but it's more interesting than the second floor. First-timers like to visit the third floor. Wu Zhihao explained in a low voice, No. 1 high school is the best high school in Sun City. It's not like there are no martial artists in Sun City. If the children and grandchildren of martial artists go to high school, most of them go to No. 1 high school. Although there aren't many descendants of these martial artists, it's not like there aren't any. This year in our batch, there are 2 who have martial artists as their elders. Including those in Year 1 and Year 2, there are a total of 7 people in our school who have martial artist elders. These 7 people often come here to train. However, they don't usually train on the second floor. They train on the third floor. Fong Ping, are you interested? We can go too. Fong Ping was a little surprised. Of course, the school doesn't prohibit it, but we don't usually go there. There aren't many equipment on the third floor. Plus, these guys have martial artists as their elders, so they can't hang out with us. They won't say anything if we go to take a look, though. Most first-timers like to go and watch the excitement. Of course, if we come here often, we won't bother. It's boring. Fong Ping's interest was piqued. He stood up and said, "Let's go up and take a look. Are their vitality high?" "They're just SO. They're slightly higher than us, but there's a limit." Wu Zhihao led Fong Ping up the stairs. He lowered his voice again and said, "The martial artists in Sun City don't have high ranks, and their conditions are limited. Which of the truly powerful ones stay in Sun City? The children of those with high ranks aren't in No. 1 high school either. They're either in auspicious Sun #1 high school or studying in the big cities. Fang Ping understood now. No wonder he rarely heard of any strong second-generation martial artists in #1 high school. The second-generation martial artists studying in #1 high school usually had rank 1 or 2 martial artists as their elders. Most of them were rank 1. Most of them were casual martial artists. These people had limited resources for their own cultivation, so naturally they could not provide much for their children. Even if their vitality is stronger, it's still limited compared to the average person. As they spoke, the two of them had reached the 3rd floor. It was very spacious and very quiet. This was Fang Ping's first impression. It was completely different from the heatwave downstairs. There were also very few people, although there were 7 second-generation martial artists in No. 1 high school. Not all of them would come here, and not all of them would come together every time. Fang Ping glanced around. There were only 5 people in total on the huge 3rd floor. 2 of them were obviously here to watch the excitement, like Fang Ping and the others. There were only 3 people who were actually cultivating. Yes, cultivating, not the methods of honing. Low-ranked martial artists did not dare to let their children cultivate that. Instead, they were practicing stances. Chapter 43. Pole Standing. Fang Ping said in a low voice. Wu Zhihao wasn't surprised either. He nodded and said, "That's right. Second-generation martial artists usually practice stances." Stances were not a secret. Martial Arts University had collected 16 types of commonly used stances. But in society, pole standing wasn't limited to just that. If one wanted to learn, it was still possible. Even the 16 forms of pole standing could be collected with a little effort. Wu Zhihao did not care what Fang Ping thought. He said in a low voice, "Do you know why these second-generation martial artists aren't famous? It was because of this. Practicing stances depended on the long-term effects. He would have to wait until he entered a martial arts university before he could truly unleash his potential. After entering a martial arts university, it was said that those who practiced pole standing well would become martial artists faster than the average person. That was why these second-generation martial artists usually did not pursue excellence in the early stages. They just wanted to get into a martial arts university. Once they get into a martial arts university, that's their chance to shine." Wu Zhihao shook his head and said, "But we don't have to learn from them. Pole standing is a waste of time and energy. In fact, the short-term effect was not as strong as normal exercise. Food and medicine were more effective. Usually, only second-generation martial artists would practice pole standing in high school. Stance training depended on the long-term effect. Moreover, it could only be used with the method of honing to maximize the effect. Otherwise, standing in a stance alone would have a worse effect on the growth of qi and blood than normal training. Of course, this referred to those who did not have a high level of stance. If one could achieve a solid stance before becoming a martial artist, the effect would be incomparable to normal training. The descendants of these lower-rank 3 martial artists did not seek to become martial artists before the Gaokao. Their goal was the future. First, he would practice his stance until his vitality reached the standard of a martial arts university. When he entered a martial arts university and had a solid foundation in his stance, he would then cultivate the methods of honing. At this moment, the effect was apparent. Moreover, they could also borrow the school's resources, so they didn't have to rely on themselves. A standalone stance would not consume as many resources as the methods of honing. It could also relieve the pressure on the 3 lower ranks of martial artists. Wu Zhihao's simple explanation was enough for Fang Ping to think of all these. At that moment, Fang Ping could understand why Wu Zhihao and the others did not want to learn pole standing even though they knew about it. Everyone's current goal was the martial science exam. Normal training could increase one's qi and blood faster than practicing stances. So why practice stances? As for the future, it was still too early. If he did not pass the martial sciences exams, it was all for naught. As for the descendants of martial artists, almost all of them aimed to become martial artists. That was why these people could cultivate the time-consuming pole standing. Even if they could not get into a martial arts university, they would still continue down the path of martial arts. As the two of them chatted in hushed tones, Fong Ping was also observing the three of them in their stances. There were 2 boys and a girl. Like Fong Ping, the 2 boys cultivated the horse-riding stance. As for the girl, she was practicing the perfectly round stake. Pole standing was easy to distinguish, and it could be seen from the posture. Fong Ping was looking at them, and the few people who were practicing their stances also saw Wu Zhihao and his friend. Of the 2 boys, one of them, who looked more boorish and had a crew cut, suddenly stopped cultivating and laughed. Wu Zhihao, it's been a few days since I last saw you. How's your vitality? I haven't tested for a few days. Tan Hao, how much are you now? 118 calories. Tan Hao spoke in a loud voice. He wiped his sweat with a towel as he complained. According to last year's standards, I could even sleep at home. However, he heard that everyone's vitality was very high this year. Even 118 calories was not safe. I have no choice but to work harder before the time comes and try to reach 120 calories. Tan Hao looked boorish, and his figure was similar to Yang Jian's. As he spoke, he glanced at Fong Ping. However, they were not familiar with each other, so they did not greet each other. Wu Zhihao took the initiative to introduce him. This is Fong Ping, a badass in our class. His vitality is even higher than mine. He smiled at Fong Ping. This is Tan Hao from class 2, a second-generation martial artist. Get lost. What second-generation martial artist? Tan Hao scolded and said impatiently, What second-generation martial artist? My father is only rank 1 and a rank 1 martial artist from a martial arts training class. He's so poor that I haven't eaten as many pills as you. Wu Zhihao chuckled. Don't be so shameless. Don't you know who has eaten more? Ha ha ha. I'm not going to bullshit with you. You said that Fong Ping's vitality is higher than yours? Tan Hao's interest in Fong Ping was piqued, and he looked him up and down. At that moment, the other boy, who was more handsome and had slightly longer hair than Tan Hao, stopped his stance. Hearing their discussion, the handsome boy walked over and asked curiously, Wu Zhihao, is what you said true? Wu Zhihao was not in a hurry to answer. He said to Fong Ping, This is Tan Tao, also from class 2. This year, the 2 second-generation martial artists in our cohort are these brothers. Don't think that their vitality is lower than Zhou Bin and Xiao Yang's. But when they get to martial arts universities, these 2 brothers will be amazing. They were the only second-generation martial artists in year 3 of number 1 high school. The girl beside them was a second-year student. Seeing them chatting, she did not join in and continued to cultivate. 2 brothers. Fong Ping looked at the 2 people in front of him. One was boorish and tall, and the other had delicate features. Motherf asterisk Kerr. Were these 2 brothers? Fong Ping thought to himself, but he did not show it on his face. He greeted them with a smile. Before the 2 brothers could speak, Fong Ping asked curiously, You guys were practicing the horse-riding stance just now, right? Yes, you know about it too? Tan Hao laughed. It sounds amazing, but the effects are average. If it wasn't for my old man forcing us to practice pole standing, I would have given up a long time ago. If I trained like Wu Zhihao, my vitality might even be higher than Zhou Bin's. Can you stop bragging? Tan Tao interrupted Tan Hao helplessly. Zhou Bin's vitality is 125 calories. This guy's not your average vitality. 120 calories is the threshold. Even if we did the same as him, we might not be able to break through 120 calories. 120 calories is the threshold. Fong Ping muttered to himself, What threshold? Why didn't I know about it? Also, these two brothers talk a lot. I was talking about the horse riding stance, so why did they jump to Zhoubin? As Fang Ping cursed, the two brothers finally returned to the topic at hand. Tan Tao looked at Fang Ping curiously and asked, Fang Ping, is your vitality really higher than Wu Zhihao's? Wu Zhihao's vitality was not low. It was 115 calories before, which was about the same as theirs. Now, Wu Zhihao did not say how high it was, so they did not know. If Fang Ping's vitality was higher than Wu Zhihao's, did that not mean he was about the same as the two brothers? There were not many people with vitality above 115 calories in number 1 high school, so they had never heard of Fang Ping's name before. Zhihao was just saying, I've never tested it, so I'm not too sure. Fang Ping did not want to dwell on this matter, so he forcefully changed the topic. Looking at you guys, you've been practicing your stances for a long time. How long can you do it now? About half an hour. Does that mean you've achieved a stable stance? You know this too, Tan Hao. The boorish man was surprised again. He quickly smiled and said, I've been practicing my stances for 3 years, and I've only achieved this level not long ago. Tan Hao was a bit boorish, but Tan Tao was more attentive than his boss. He looked at Fang Ping again. After a while, Tan Tao suddenly said, Fang Ping, you're practicing your stance too? Wu Zhihao could not help but look at Fang Ping. Fang Ping did not deny it. He smiled and said, Yes, I'm practicing my stance too. I'm cultivating the same as you guys, the horse riding stance. But I haven't achieved a stable stance yet. I'm a little envious, seeing how much steadier your stances are than mine. If one did not look closely, one would not be able to tell if one cultivated a stance. However, if one looked closely, one would notice a slight difference in the way one walked and the aura one had. Fang Ping did not walk, so Tan Tao had only asked because he was suspicious. When he heard Fang Ping admit that he cultivated the horse-riding stance, Tan Tao's interest was immediately piqued. He quickly asked, How long have you been practicing your stance? Quite a long time. Fang Ping did not elaborate. He forcefully changed the topic and said, I've always been trying to figure it out on my own. I didn't know that there were people cultivating stances in the university. You guys are the first people I've met who have truly cultivated a stance. Can I watch from the side when you guys practice your stances in the future? He had not achieved a stable stance yet. He had yet to reach the first level. Cultivating the methods of honing in a stance at the same time was very difficult and risky. That was why Fang Ping really wanted to break through to the first level and try cultivating both at the same time. However, some parts were difficult to understand just by looking at the diagram. If he had a real-life template as a reference, then breaking through to the first level would be much easier. Although Wang Jinyang could guide him, he was in River City. Moreover, he was about to break through soon, so Fang Ping could not keep bothering him. Now that he had met these two brothers, they were both at the first level of a stable stance and cultivating the horse-riding stance. Fang Ping must have learned a lot by watching from the side. Tan Hao chuckled. Feel free to watch. It's not a secret. Actually, the main point of standing is to persevere. Tan Tao and I have been standing since the first year of high school. We only broke through to the first level recently. Knowing that Fang Ping was cultivating the horse-riding stance, the Tan brothers became more talkative. They did not continue after they had just finished their stance. Instead, they chatted with Fang Ping about their experiences with the stance. High school students were usually not very shrewd. Although it was the first time the two brothers had met Fang Ping, they shared some of their experiences with him without hesitation. Fang Ping felt that his trip had not been in vain. He had come to the right place. Fang Ping even performed a stance on the spot. The two brothers even helped him correct some of his movements. Half an hour later, the Tan brothers had gone home first. Wu Zhihao looked at Fang Ping strangely. Fang Ping, you're cultivating a stance too? Yes. Wu Zhihao wanted to say something but hesitated. Cultivating a stance usually required slow vitality growth, so it was essential to take supplements. Where did Fong Ping's family get the money to support him? Fong Ping seemed to know what he was thinking. He laughed casually. I was just cultivating casually before. I didn't care about progress. Otherwise, my vitality wouldn't have been so low. Didn't I take pills later? My vitality increased a lot. That's why I picked up my stance again. Although Wu Zhihao still had some doubts, he did not ask further. He only thought that Fong Ping had hidden his strength well. Fong Ping did not care too much. Let him have his doubts. At worst, he could just blame it on Wang Jinyang. With the scapegoat king around, Fong Ping was not afraid of other people's suspicions. These guys still dared to ask Wang Jinyang? Even if they did, Wang Jinyang would memorize it. He would definitely do the after-sales service for Huangbin. River City. Wang Jinyang, who had just completed his breakthrough, suddenly sneezed. Wang Jinyang shook his head. He had a bad feeling about this. Chapter 44. If there was a first, there would be a second. In the next few days, Fong Ping often went to observe the Tan brothers practicing their stances. Over the past few days, he had benefited greatly. The Tan brothers were easy to talk to and did not disturb their cultivation. When he was free, Fong Ping would ask some questions, and the two brothers would answer some of them. Pole standing was considered a semi-public secret. There were no tricks involved. Time was the key. What they did not know, however, was that Fong Ping was no ordinary person. When others stood in the stance for a long time, their qi and blood would be greatly depleted, and they would become dispirited. They would have no choice but to stop and rest. Usually it would be the second or third day before they could recover completely. What about Fong Ping? If his health was gone, he would replenish it with his wealth. I'm feeling dispirited. I'll use my wealth to increase it. The Tan brothers had entered the stable stance stage, and they could only do it for half an hour a day. It wasn't that he couldn't continue, but it would consume too much of his vitality and mental energy. He would be dispirited for a few days. Qi and blood were still manageable. They could recover by eating tonics and pills. For low-ranked martial artists, mentality overdraft was almost unsolvable. Apart from sleeping and resting, low-ranked martial artists had no other way to restore their mentality. Where was Fong Ping? According to his progress, 20 minutes at a time was the most he could do. But this guy was spending his wealth without caring about the cost. Every day when he returned home, he would start cultivating at 7 o'clock. He had spent half an hour practicing the secrets of body tempering, but he had spent more than 4 hours in his stance. Fong Ping did not rest until midnight. If not for the fact that he could not take it without sleep, he could have stood until dawn. His qi, blood, and mental state were always full, and he maintained a stance for a long period of time. A single session of cultivation was equivalent to half a month or even a month for the Tan brothers. In just a few days, Fong Ping felt that he was not far from achieving a stable foothold on the first level. On Saturday night, Fong Ping consulted the two brothers again. Tan Hao didn't say anything, but Tan Tao's gaze changed. This guy is a little scary. 2 days ago, he was still asking for some basic knowledge. Now he was asking about the first level of the stable stance. After holding it in for a long time, Tan Tao could not help but ask, Fong Ping, you're not going to break through, are you? Tan Hao opened his mouth and said dryly, breakthrough? Fong Ping smiled. No, I'm just asking. Actually, I've been practicing my stance for quite some time, but I've never heard anyone explain it to me before, so I don't really understand it. Now that you've given me pointers, I've made some simple arrangements. There are some things that I didn't understand before, but now I understand them all. Although I haven't broken through yet, I believe it will happen soon. I really have to thank you this time. When you have time, I'll treat you to a meal. Whether the Tan brothers did not mind or were broad-minded, they had indeed helped Fong Ping a lot this time. Without the two brothers, if Fong Ping had to rely on himself, he would not have been able to enter the first level without someone pointing out some of his mistakes. He's really going to make a breakthrough, Tan Tao muttered. When he looked at Fang Ping again, he was a little envious. As long as they did not achieve a breakthrough in pole standing, the brothers would not care even if their vitality was higher than theirs. It did not matter if his vitality was a few calories higher. They had a martial artist father, so they knew more than others. Once they entered martial arts university and learned the methods of honing, they would have instructors and school resources to support them. Within a year, the possibility of them becoming martial artists was very high. Fang Ping, on the other hand, had a high vitality as long as his vitality was not terrifyingly high. So what if it was Zhou Bin's 125 calories? If they went to school and learned pole standing from the beginning, who knew how long it would take for them to achieve a stable stance and cultivate the methods of honing? It was very likely that when the brothers became martial artists and completed honing one of their limbs, they would have a chance to break through. But that was before. Now that Fang Ping was about to break through the first level of pole standing, he would be on the same starting line as them. Tan Tao was envious for a while, but he said politely, "There's no need for a meal. Everyone's busy now. Let's have a meal together when the martial sciences exams are over." Fang Ping's vitality was not low, and he was said to be okay in cultural studies. This guy had a high chance of getting into a martial arts university. When he passed the exams, they would all be martial arts university students. It would be good to have a meal and get to know each other. They did not have time, and Fang Ping was busy too. After thanking them for a while, Fang Ping left. After he left, the brothers found Wu Zhihao downstairs. The boorish Tan Hao grabbed Wu Zhihao's collar and said angrily, "Lil Wu, you're lying to me again." Wu Zhihao was dumbfounded. Then he said angrily, "Get lost. Let go of me, big blockhead. Don't think I'm afraid of you two. Fight me one-on-one if you dare." "One-on-one my ass." Tan Hao cursed, but he still let go. He said gloomily, "Didn't you say that Fang Ping's family is average? His pole standing has been improving at a frightening rate lately. His vitality is full." "That shouldn't be the case," Wu Zhihao said impatiently, "just because of this." He had his suspicions and doubts before. Now, however, Wu Zhihao felt like he understood. While the others were not paying attention, Wu Zhihao lowered his voice and said, "I'm afraid this kid has someone supporting him." "Who?" "Brother Wang." Wu Zhihao's eyes lit up. He asked for Brother Wang's number the last time he came to school. "Then I think they met." "I don't know the details, but there's a high chance that he has Brother Wang's support. Otherwise, how do you think he could improve so quickly?" "Brother Wang Jinyang?" The brothers looked at each other in shock. Wu Zhihao did not know the inside story, but they had a martial artist father, so he knew a little. Just a few days ago, the most talented guy in Sun City in the past decade had single-handedly killed a peak-rank 2 martial artist. How old was Wang Jinyang? He was a freshman, 19 years old. What rank was Wang Jinyang if he could kill a peak-rank 2 martial artist? Peak rank 2? Rank 3? Even their father had told them to suck up to someone like him when they got into Nanjiang Martial Arts University. Suck up to him, not get close to him. If Wang Jinyang was already so talented as a freshman, he might reach the middle ranks in one go after he graduated. If such a person graduated and entered the political world, he would at least be a commander-level figure. Only the head of a city could be called a commander. As for the provincial level, it was the governor. Sun City was only a county-level city. The head was not even a commander. If Wang Jinyang trained for a few years, it was not impossible for him to become a governor in the future. How could they not suck up to someone like him? The brothers' eyes turned red. Had this kid really sucked up to Brother Wang? Wu Zhihao said in a low voice, "That's what I think. It's very likely. There's no use in you two being jealous. Uncle Tan is a martial artist too. There's nothing to be jealous about. I should be the one envious. What do you know?" Tan Hao scolded. Even if his father was here, he would not dare to say that he was on par with Wang Jinyang. A rank one martial artist who was almost 50 years old, and a 19-year-old rank 2 or even rank 3 martial artist. How could they even be compared? The old man was counting on the brothers to succeed now, other than his daily cultivation to prevent his vitality from dropping. He did not cultivate at all. Cultivation required money. Did you understand? If a family of 3 cultivated, relying on the old man's meager benefits would have made them bankrupt. However, Wang Jinyang was different. He was young, had a high rank, and was still a student. It was easy for him to get resources. With his support, Fang Ping could probably eat blood and chew replenishing pills like candy. Of course, this was just a thought. Even if Fang Ping could eat it, he would not be able to digest it quickly. Why does Brother Wang like Fang Ping? Sigh, don't tell me it's because of the reception last time. We should have gone. I regret it so much. The brothers sighed. Wu Zhihao was even more depressed. Don't mention it. I even went to receive him, but I didn't get a share. He guessed that Wang Jinyang saw Fang Ping in a different light because of the sudden increase in his vitality after he took the medicine. Of course, it could also have something to do with Fang Ping's courage. Wu Zhihao admired that guy for daring to call Wang Jinyang on his own. A martial artist should have the guts to fight. Many people had heard of this saying, but how many young people understood it? At this moment, Wu Zhihao felt like he understood. If Fang Ping did not dare to fight and did not have that phone call, he might not have let Wang Jinyang train him. Although his guesses were not entirely correct, the results were the same. If Fang Ping did not make that call, he would not be where he was now. However, Fang Ping was prepared. He used an exchange of benefits. If it was Wu Zhihao who called, no matter how kind Wang Jinyang was, he would only give him a few pointers. He would not help too much. Fang Ping naturally did not know about Wu Zhihao's wild guesses. However, this was also Fang Ping's plan. He did not plan to hide it too much. He had already thought about taking the blame and threw it to Wang Jinyang. However, that was after the martial sciences exam, not now. Now that Wu Zhihao and the others were thinking about it, Fang Ping would not deny it even if he knew. After leaving the gym, Fang Ping did not go home. Instead, he went to scenic lake gardens. In the past few days, everything had arrived. Fang Ping had also asked someone to install it. In the afternoon, Fang Ping asked someone from a housekeeping company to help clean the place. He returned at night. The new house was very clean. After walking around the house, Fang Ping took off his jacket and began to cultivate the methods of honing. These few days he used the excuse of training at school and returned home very late. His parents did not suspect anything. Half an hour later, he finished cultivating the methods of honing. It had only been a week since he received the cultivation method. However, Fang Ping's strength had increased tremendously. Wealth. 3240000 vitality. 129 cal mentality. 150 Hz his wealth had become a whole number because his parents had given him another $200 for meals and pocket money in the past few days. Fang Ping did not want it, but he did not reject it after some thought. His parents would be more worried if he did not want it now. He would take it first. It would not be too late to show his cards after the martial sciences exam. From last weekend, before he received the cultivation method, Fang Ping's wealth was more than 37 million. At that time, his vitality was 124 calories. After a week, his vitality had increased by 5 calories, and his mentality had increased by 10 hertz. According to Fang Ping's previous expenditure, 15,000 wealth would have been enough. This time, however, Fang Ping had spent more than 130,000 wealth. It was close to 10 times the expenditure. Still, Fang Ping was satisfied. Although he had not spent much before, it was difficult to increase his upper limit. He had to rely on himself to train, and his body could not take it. Now that he had the methods of honing and pole standing, his body and bones were becoming stronger while his vitality and mentality were being drained. His wealth was not only reflected in the growth of his vitality and mentality, but also his overall strengthening. It had also saved Fang Ping a lot of time. Spending more than 100,000 wealth was quite worth it. There are only 11 days left until the physical assessment. I wonder how much my vitality will increase by then. It was already April 19th. Fang Ping could feel that the higher his vitality was, the harder it was to increase it. His vitality was already at 129 calories yesterday. After a whole day of cultivation, his upper limit had not increased. Looks like I'll have to wait until my pole standing breaks through a level and cultivate it together with the methods of honing. I should be able to increase my speed then. My pole standing will break through a level in a few days. Chapter 45. At night, Lakeview Gardens. In the backyard, Fang Ping wasted no time and continued practicing his stance. In the beginning, Fang Ping maintained his stance in a fixed position. If he moved, he might fall out of the stance. Now, however, Fang Ping's upper body was swaying slightly. Fang Yuan, who was squatting on the side with a small stool, watched her brothers swaying with wide eyes. She found it amusing. The little girl liked to cause trouble for Fang Ping, but she knew that she should not disturb him when he was cultivating. She wanted to say something mean, but she held it in. The horse riding stance is like riding a horse. The spine is like a dragon. The form is like a pole. The steps are like a cat. The steps are like a swan. Fang Ping's mind replayed the key points in the book and the Tan brothers' guidance. Stance was easy to practice, but it was easy. Some people had to spend years to get started. After a few days of practicing his stance, Fang Ping finally got the hang of it. Fang Ping, who had been moving his legs, would soon fall from his stance. Now he moved his legs slightly, but he still maintained his stance cultivation. Stand firm. You can't push me. Fang Ping's eyes moved suddenly. He looked at Fang Yuan and yelled, "Push me!" Huh, push me. Fang Yuan understood now, even though she did not know what was wrong with her brother. If Fang Ping was looking for trouble, she would satisfy him. Fang Yuan giggled, stood up and walked toward Fang Ping. I'm really going to push you? Push. Fang Ping's upper body was swaying, but not too much. Fang Yuan grinned and pushed Fang Ping's head with her finger. A few days ago, Fang Ping had asked for trouble. In the end, she pushed Fang Ping to the ground with just one finger. In Fang Yuan's opinion, bullying Fang Ping was the easiest way for her to defeat her brother. She stretched out her finger and touched Fang Ping's forehead. Fang Yuan used a little force, but Fang Ping did not move. Soon, she heard Fang Ping yell, "Did you not eat?" Fang Yuan pouted and said angrily, "You asked for it." Fang Yuan, who did not want to use too much force, increased her force. Instead of pushing Fang Ping with one finger, she used one hand. Her palm pushed against Fang Ping's head, but it felt a little slippery. He had clearly used 70% of his strength, but he was unable to exert any strength. Fang Yuan, you've grown so round for nothing. Work harder. Fang Ping. Fang Yuan was a little annoyed. Without holding back, she shoved at Fang Ping's head. Fang Ping's toes gripped the ground tightly, and his body began to sway slightly again. Fang Yuan had exerted all his strength, but when he pushed it, he felt that there was nothing he could do. He staggered and almost fell. Seeing this, Fang Ping shouted again, "Fang Yuan, come on, hit me!" Fang Yuan gritted his teeth. He was on the verge of exploding. After eating so much, I don't have any strength at all. What a waste of all that weight. Fang Yuan felt that she was about to explode. Round face, if you push me down, I will take you to eat KFC tomorrow. How infuriating. Fang Ping, who was getting more and more aroused, kept stimulating Fang Yuan. At this moment, Fang Ping only felt that he was one step away. Just a little bit more. He was still thinking that it might take a few days or even a week before he could stand firm. However, when he did his stance earlier, he felt something. When Fang Yuan pushed him, Fang Ping did not seem to move much, but he was changing the point of impact, so that less than 30% of Fang Yuan's strength was used on him. When a person could not be pushed down, it was not simply a matter of resisting or being pushed. Instead, it was a matter of using the stance to dispel the force. Dispel the force. Fang Ping felt that he had grasped the key point. He was about to enter the stable stance. Perhaps it would happen in the next moment. At this moment, Fang Yuan's little universe had exploded. Fang Ping had provoked her like this. She could tolerate it, but she could not. Fang Yuan, who had pushed him with one hand earlier, now used both hands. She was no longer pushing Fang Ping's head. She felt that her brother's head was covered in sweat, and it was too slippery. Changing her direction, the little girl pushed at Fang Ping's chest with both hands. "This is what you get for calling me round face." The little girl was flustered and exasperated. She had no intention of holding back. Fang Ping did not dodge. He maintained his horse stance, but his upper body began to sway again. His 10 toes were bent and gripping the soles of his shoes. When Fang Yuan's hands pushed at Fang Ping's chest, the feeling of disorientation appeared again. She had hit him squarely in the chest, but now her hands were strangely sliding to the sides. Fang Yuan had used too much force. Her body tilted and fell toward Fang Ping. Fang Ping moved his hands and helped the little girl up, ignoring her staggering movements. At this moment, Fang Ping's mind was still replaying the feeling of dispersing the force. His feet, which were gripping the ground tightly, began to move slightly, and his upper body swayed more vigorously. Soon, Fang Ping's body tilted backward. Fang Yuan, who had just regained her senses, said hurriedly, "I fell." "I won't fall," Fang Ping replied quickly. His body, which was about to fall, bounced back like a roly-poly doll without moving his feet. "I did it." Fang Ping's face lit up. He had finally grasped the feeling in that short period of time. His body staggered slightly. His feet, which were gripping the ground tightly, felt sore and swollen. Fang Ping did not mind it, though. He had already grasped the key to maintaining a stable stance. Next, he would be able to achieve the same stance as before without being so deliberate. Ha ha ha, I really am a genius. Fang Ping could not help but feel proud of himself. It had only been a week. Even though he had cheated, Fang Ping felt that he was very talented to have grasped the key to maintaining a stable stance so quickly. The truth was that his mentality was much stronger than the average person's. Increasing his mentality would help him improve his ability to understand things. Fang Ping's smug smile was extremely arrogant. Fang Yuan, who was beside him, gritted her teeth in anger. This guy had gone too far. If Fang Ping had said a few words of comfort, the little girl would not have argued with him. However, Fang Ping was too busy gloating to remember the provocation just now. Just as Fang Ping was about to check his vitality depletion, he felt a sudden breeze in front of him. Fang Ping did not maintain his stance at that moment. Thud! Fang Ping's buttocks greeted the concrete floor with a loud thud. Whoosh! Fang Ping inhaled sharply. He rubbed his injured buttocks and said angrily, "Fang Yuan, what are you doing?" "Why are you still asking me?" Fang Yuan's face lit up with pride when she saw him fall. "Didn't you ask me to push you just now? And you said that I didn't eat? And you said that I'm fat for nothing. You didn't ask me to stop. Didn't I just fulfill your wish?" "Stupid girl," Fang Ping muttered. He had forgotten about that. He was too busy being happy just now. He did not want to argue with this girl. He had provoked her for a while just now, not letting her vent her frustrations and pestering her. Fang Ping did not get up. He focused on the stats in his vision. Wealth, 3240000 vitality, 124 cal mentality. 140 hertz. The short moment he had spent was much more than the half an hour of stance he had in the past, especially his mentality, which had used up 10 hertz in one go. The breakthrough in his stance made Fang Ping feel that he could improve it now. As he thought about improving his vitality and mentality, the stats quickly changed. Wealth, 322400 vitality, 130 cal mentality, 152 hertz, 130 cal now. Fang Ping's eyes lit up. The 130 calories vitality was not the key. The key was that his stance had broken through to the first level, which meant that he could combine the methods of honing with pole standing. Whether it was Wang Jinyang or the Tan brothers, they had all said that one could only officially embark on the path of a martial artist after breaking through to the first level. Prospective martial artists of this level could combine cultivation methods and officially advance toward the limits of the human body. He wanted to try out the effects of combining the two. However, he looked at Fang Yuan beside him and dismissed the idea. There was still some risk in combining the two for the first time. He could not unleash it in the room, and cultivating in the yard would easily affect him. He might as well try it at the new house the next day. Fang Yuan saw that he was sitting on the ground and could not get up. She asked, "Are you okay?" Fang Ping came back to his senses and stopped smiling. He grimaced in pain and said, "I hurt my tailbone." "Fang Yuan, you're so cruel." You really hurt yourself." Fang Yuan panicked and went forward to help Fang Ping. "I really hurt myself." "It hurts." "Fang Ping, don't scare me. How about this? You'll take care of the chores and laundry tomorrow." "I won't blame you." Fang Yuan, who was initially worried, reacted immediately when she heard that. She said angrily, "Fang Ping." "Ha ha ha." Fang Ping laughed and jumped up. He did not give the girl any time to retaliate and went straight to his room. Damn it! Although he had achieved a breakthrough in his pole standing, Fang Ping did not let his guard down. At night, Fang Ping continued to practice his stance in his room, carefully experiencing the feeling of a stable stance on the first level. At the same time, Nanjiang Martial Arts University. Wang Jinyang strolled casually on the campus path with both hands in his pockets. Some of the students who passed by were filled with awe and respect, making way for him. Some of them were so excited that they could not wait to fight him. There were also some girls who looked hopeful, hoping to catch Wang Jinyang's attention. Wang Jinyang did not care. He strolled leisurely and muttered in a low voice, "Should I inform that guy? This kid is bold and ruthless. He dares to fight and fight. He's suitable for the martial arts path. It's a pity that he can only rely on himself. He can't rely on his family." Wang Jinyang could not help but think of himself when he thought of Fang Ping. Their family backgrounds were the same, and Wang Jinyang understood how difficult it was to rise from the lower classes. With the support of Huang Bin's pills and the cultivation method, this guy should be improving fast, right? Maybe he has a chance. Forget it. I'll inform him tomorrow. It's up to him whether he can get it or not. Wang Jinyang muttered to himself, not looking at the people around him. Tomorrow he would challenge the vice president of the Martial Arts Society and get the position this semester. Next semester, when the president of the Martial Arts Society graduated, he would be able to fight for the position. Chapter 46. The next day, Sunday, he stood for a while after waking up in the morning, washed up and prepared to go to the new house. Fang Yuan had not woken up yet, so he did not plan to wake her up. It would be inconvenient for him to go out later if he woke the girl up. Just as he was about to leave, the phone in his pocket vibrated. He took out his phone and glanced at it. Surprised, he picked up the call. "Brother Wang, what's up?" Under normal circumstances, Fang Ping would not call unless he asked about cultivation. Otherwise, Wang Jinyang would not have called him. "How's your cultivation going?" "It's all right. I feel like I'm improving quickly." Fang Ping did not mention that his pole standing had broken through a level. He did not want to hurt Wang Jinyang's feelings. Wang Jinyang did not ask for details. From Fang Ping's tone, his cultivation should be going well. Fang Ping had resources, so it was normal for him to improve quickly. Governor General Zhang has broken through to rank 7. Fang Ping was curious. Why would Wang Jinyang tell him this out of nowhere? On the first day of his rebirth, Yang Jian had been gossiping about Nanjiang Province's Governor General Zhang breaking through to rank 7. It was just gossip at the time, but now it had been confirmed. I told you before that Governor General Zhang has broken through to rank 7 and is a grandmaster. He can fight for more martial arts resources for Nanjiang. In the past, the most outstanding Gaokao students in Nanjiang went to other martial arts universities. Nanjiang Martial Arts University and other universities in Nanjiang province recruit students every year. To put it bluntly, they are leftovers from other universities. This year, Governor General Zhang has broken through to rank 7. The province hopes to retain more geniuses. We didn't have the resources to nurture them before, but we do now. To retain these outstanding students, the province has given them new policies and benefits. Fang Ping asked quickly, "New benefits policy? What is it?" Cultural studies are the standard, so I won't go into details. It's mainly about vitality. Wang Jinyang paused before continuing. This year, students with vitality above 125 calories who are willing to apply to Nanjiang's local martial arts universities will be rewarded. If their vitality reaches 125 calories, they will be rewarded with 100,000 cash and 3 normal vitality pills. If their vitality reaches 130 calories, they will be rewarded with 200,000 cash, 3 normal vitality pills, and 1 rank, 1 vitality pill. If their vitality reaches 135 calories, they will be rewarded with 500,000 cash, 1 rank, 1 vitality pill, and 1 bone honing pill. The market price of rank 1 vitality pill was 300,000, and the bone honing pill was 500,000. Fang Ping was waiting for the other party to continue speaking when the other party suddenly fell silent. Fang Ping asked hurriedly, and then, "What then?" Amused, Wang Jinyang said, "Those whose vitality exceeds 140 calories have all applied to the Big Two. These people did not lack resources, and it would be difficult for them to stay even with the reward policy. If that's the case, what's the point of formulating policies? If no one stayed in the end, it would be a joke." Therefore, the current plan was only set to 135 calories. If there's really a good seedling who's willing to apply for Nanjiang's martial arts university, there'll naturally be people who'll talk to you face to face. You won't have to worry about the rewards then, will you? That's true. As Fang Ping spoke, he could not help but start calculating. His vitality was already at 130 calories. There were still 10 more days for the physical assessment. It should not be a problem for him to reach 135 calories, right? If it really reached 135 calories, the rewards alone, converted to the current market price, would be worth 3 million. This reward could be said to be generous. With so much money, even without the school's resources, it would be enough for him to break through to rank 1, if not for his bad luck. After all, some people failed in their breakthroughs. Although Fang Ping had a lot of pills on hand, these rewards did not seem to be as rich as his net worth. However, Fang Ping had robbed a peak rank 2 martial artist, which was a special case. It was like a dream for a normal martial science student to not rely on their family to gather more than 1 million in resources. Calculating in his heart, Fang Ping asked again, "Brother Wang, if someone applies to the Big Two with 135 calories, will there be a reward?" Wang Jinyang could not help but laugh. "Of course not. There are many martial artists applying to the Big Two every year. Why would they reward these aspiring martial artists? If it's a martial artist, the Big Two will fight for the students and give them partial rewards. Right? Don't compare last year and this year. Last year, the Big Two's lowest admission vitality threshold was 125 calories. That was the lowest, and the other results were excellent. Last year, the average vitality was around 128 calories to get into the Big Two, which was at the bottom. This year, I think it's above 130 calories. In Nanjiang, people with 135 calories are naturally outstanding. Even if they get into the Big Two, they'll probably be at the bottom this year." Fang Ping Sometimes it's better to be the head of a chicken than the tail of a phoenix. Wang Jinyang said sternly. Many people think that being the head of a chicken than the tail of a phoenix is an escape. In reality, how short-sighted. How many students are there in the Big Two? If you're at the bottom, who cares about you? How many resources can you get from the school? How many instructors can tutor you? If the school has good stuff, good missions, and good rewards, will it be your turn? In normal martial arts universities, it's completely different. As for being surrounded by people weaker than you, it'll make you depressed. Wang Jinyang said meaningfully, that might not be true. If you really don't feel any pressure, you can create it yourself. For example, if you go to the Big Two and come back beaten half to death, you'll naturally have motivation. When the time comes, the school will throw resources at you to maintain its reputation so that you can improve. If you're a normal student from a famous school and come to our school to cause trouble, no one will look at you even if you're beaten half to death. Hearing this, Fang Ping felt that something was off. He suddenly said, Brother Wang, did you experience this personally? Cough, cough, cough. Wang Jinyang coughed dryly, but did not answer him directly, because he had indeed done this before. When he broke through rank 2 from rank 1, there were no more resources. The school had used up all their rations. Old Wang took his saber and went to Magic City Martial Arts University. In the end, he was beaten half to death. Once he returned to the school leaders made a decision. They could not let the leaders of Magic City Martial Arts University see them as a joke. Old Wang still had a future. He was only a step away from breaking through rank 2. No problem. They would allocate all the resources for him. Once he broke through rank 2, he would go and beat him up. And so, Old Wang successfully broke through rank 2. Of course, it was fine if he did it once, but if he did it a second time and failed again, the school leaders would not be so easy to talk to. Moreover, they had to be outstanding students. The school would not be stupid enough to waste a lot of resources to nurture those with no future. Old Wang actually regretted it a little. If he had known that he would have done it when he was peak rank 2, he could have gotten more resources. Fortunately, when he broke through from rank 2 to rank 3, he met Fang Ping, and everything went smoothly in the end. Out of topic, Wang Jinyang said, the reason I called you today to tell you all this is because I hope that you can strive to reach 125 calories during the physical assessment. 125 cal. The corner of Fang Ping's mouth twitched. Was he looking down on the great genius? Wang Jinyang seemed to remember something and added, of course, if you don't care about the resources and consume all the pills, there's still hope for 130 calories, but it's not worth it. The pills and cash reward won't be enough for you to waste. With the number of blood and chi-replenishing pills Fang Ping had, if he consumed them without caring about the cost, it was not impossible for him to reach 130 calories. However, how much money would he have to spend to consume so many pills? It was not worth it to fight for these rewards. It was better to take it slow. After all, pills had a digestion period. Consuming a lot of pills in a short time would waste too much of the medicinal effects. Fang Ping did not explain. He said quickly, Brother Wang, if my vitality is too high and I attract attention, just tell them I gave you the pills. It's fine. Wang Jinyang did not care. According to his calculations, even if Fang Ping consumed all the pills he could use, he would only reach 130 calories at most. After all, there was not much time left until the martial sciences exam. There was a limit to how much pills he could absorb. A vitality like that was not low. It would cause a small commotion in Sun City. However, he, Wang Jinyang, was a rank 3 martial artist and a genius student at Nanjiang Martial Arts University. With his strength and status, it was not a big deal for him to take care of his junior and groom him into a 130 calories genius. In reality, Fang Ping's cultivation of the methods of honing and pole standing consumed a lot of vitality. Wang Jinyang thought that it would be good if he could reach 125 calories. As for whether people would think that he was taking care of Fang Ping too much, Wang Jinyang did not care at all. If you're not convinced, come to me. Old Wang was taking care of everything. Fang Ping felt that he could relax a little, since Old Wang said that he could come to him if there were any problems. He would not have to hide his strength even if he reached 135 calories or even 140 calories. At that thought, Fang Ping quickly thanked him. Wang Jinyang did not mind. In the end, he said earnestly, Fang Ping, with our background, the path of martial arts is harder than others. If you want to go far, then you have to seize every opportunity. You can put off cultivating the methods of honing for now. Condensing your vitality will cause your vitality to drop. Compared to experiencing the methods of honing a few days earlier, the benefits you get are the real benefits. This could be considered as a shallow acquaintance. Wang Jinyang could understand these aspiring martial artists' desire for cultivation methods, but there were only 10 days left until the physical assessment. If he put aside the cultivation method, his vitality could increase even more, provided that it had not reached his current limit. If he reached his current limit, then the methods of honing and pole standing would be necessary. Fang Ping did not mind. He responded with a smile and thanked him a few more times. He hung up the phone. Fang Ping mumbled, there are additional benefits too. Looks like I'll have to reach 135 calories and above. But Fang Ping was a little hesitant. If he really reached the admission requirements of the Big Two, would he still have to apply for Nanjiang Martial Arts University? If he did not enroll in Nanjiang's local martial arts university, he would not get a share of these rewards. Forget it. Let's talk about it after the exam. Not only did the Big Two have high vitality requirements, but they also had high requirements for practical tests, general studies, and cultural studies. Even if Fang Ping's vitality had reached the standard, the same could not be said for the other events. It would not be too late to fret over this matter after the exam was over, and he really reached the admission requirements of the Big Two. Also, Wang Jinyang can receive news about things in the province in advance. This guy is doing pretty well now. Fang Ping's imagination ran wild. If he really went to Nanjiang Martial Arts University, he would surpass Old Wang. He wondered if the guy would regret instigating him to apply for Nanjiang Martial Arts University when he surpassed Old Wang. Chapter 47. Scenic Lake Gardens. Room 2601. Fang Ping took off his shirt and muttered in a slightly mischievous manner, I'm really curious what it looks like when a girl cultivates. Every time he cultivated the methods of honing, he would strip naked. On one hand, it was so that he could observe the effects of his qi and blood condensation. On the other hand, every time he cultivated, some bad blood would be expelled from his body. This kind of excretion was not the same as urinating. It was squeezed out through the pores. But when he thought about it carefully, it didn't matter if they didn't take off their clothes. He just had to prepare a few more sets of clothes. There must be some girls who don't want to change their clothes all the time and don't wear them during cultivation. Fang Ping came to a conclusion. He felt that it was necessary to do some in-depth research on this matter. However, this was just a thought. Fang Ping grinned and tossed these messy thoughts out of his mind. A few minutes later, Fang Ping cleared his thoughts and began to perform the horse stance, entering his stance. When pole standing is combined with the methods of honing, pole standing will vibrate the bones and qi and blood, allowing the qi and blood to hone the bones and meridians faster. Complementing the tempering will consume more qi and blood. Under normal circumstances, I would choose to start tempering one of my limbs first. Normal people don't have enough vitality. Even if an aspiring martial artist has a vitality of 150 calories, they won't be able to complete a one-off honing of the whole body. As he did so, he recalled the book and Wang Jinyang's introduction. When the two of them worked together to cultivate, the rate at which qi and blood were consumed increased greatly. When one's vitality was not high, it was usually accompanied by tempering, and it was enough to temper only one limb. With his vitality exceeding 140 calories, he had honed both his limbs to their limits. If he wanted to temper his entire body's bones and meridians in one go, even if he were to crazily consume medicinal pills while cultivating, the digestion rate would not be able to keep up with the consumption rate. But I'm not an ordinary person. Fang Ping wore the pride of, "I am a genius" on his face. Other people can't keep up with the replenishment of their medicine, but I don't need to. I have wealth. Through the consumption of wealth, he could quickly replenish his vitality and spirit. That was why, during this cultivation, while others honed a limb, Fang Ping decided to hone his entire body. Come on, let me see the effects of the first full body tempering. Fang Ping felt that his condition today was off the charts. He would definitely reap great rewards. There was a slight change in the originally fixed posture of the stance. Fang Ping's muscles and bones began to tremble slightly. The amplitude was very small. Right now, from afar, Fang Ping was just calmly mounting the horse. However, if they really touched Fang Ping's body, they could feel a faint tremor. At the same time, he started cultivating the methods of honing. On his left arm, a vein that was usually indistinct quickly turned dark purple. In the blink of an eye, it became clear. His condensed qi and blood continuously battered the surface of his bones. The meridians in Fang Ping's left arm surged in visible waves. A few minutes later, just like his left arm, the meridians in his right arm bulged and began to surge. Fang Ping, on the other hand, was already drenched in sweat and panting heavily. The honing of his limbs had greatly increased the rate at which his vitality was being depleted. Fang Ping could distinctly feel a sense of weakness. Recover my qi and blood. Recover my mental power. Fang Ping muttered in his heart, not bothering to check how much wealth he had spent. When a new wave of vitality emerged in his body, Fang Ping continued to hone his other limbs. Full body honing was more time-consuming and exhausting than Fang Ping had imagined. Along the way, Fang Ping muttered a few times to recover his vitality and mentality. Even without looking at the data, Fang Ping knew that the consumption this time was not low. It took almost an hour. When he was done honing the surface of his skull, Fang Ping's tense mind relaxed and he slumped to the ground. Huff! The sound of intense panting echoed in the empty room. At this moment, Fang Ping's skin was a mixture of blood and sweat, which made him look hideous. He could not care less about cleaning his body. The multiple vitality and mentality consumption along the way made Fang Ping eager to know how much wealth he had spent and how much his upper limit had increased. He focused his attention on the interface in his vision. Soon, the data appeared before him. Wealth, 3181000 vitality, 122 calories, 133 calories mentality, 144 hertz, 154 hertz. The corner of Fang Ping's eye twitched. He could not care less about the heartache and hurriedly increased his vitality and mentality to the limit. After a while, Fang Ping's vitality and mentality were restored to the limit. Wealth, 3160000 vitality, 133 cal mentality, 154 hertz. After a round of cultivation, Fang Ping's upper limit had increased from 130 calories the night before to 133 calories now. In terms of mentality, there was also an increase from 152 hertz to 154 hertz. However, the consumption was also shocking. After Fang Ping's stance cultivation last night, he still had 22 million wealth points left. The cultivation just now, including the recovery to the limit, had consumed Fang Ping's wealth points. A rough full body honing has increased my vitality limit by 3 calories and consumed 60,000 wealth points. The closer one's vitality is to an aspiring martial artist's limit, the harder it is to increase, and the consumption will be greater. More than 3 million wealth points are probably only enough for 50 rounds of cultivation. Fang Ping felt a headache coming on. According to his calculations, the first round of cultivation would probably have the best effect. The subsequent cultivation would definitely be less effective. In other words, if he wanted to increase his vitality to 150 calories, the average person's limit, he would need at least 10 to 15 rounds of cultivation. The consumption of wealth points would probably be close to 1 million. If he wanted to increase it after reaching 150 calories, the consumption might be even greater. More than 3 million wealth points might be used up after he broke through to rank 1. This is even more exhausting than spending money on pills to increase my strength. Fang Ping was a little depressed, but he could understand. He pursued speed without relying on his own vitality and mentality to recover. The human body's vitality and mentality could be recovered automatically through eating and sleeping. Fang Ping saved this recovery time and cultivated continuously, so naturally his consumption was higher than the average person's. Fang Ping was actually willing to use his wealth points to exchange for time. However, as he watched his wealth points decrease continuously, Fang Ping's heart ached so much that he found it hard to breathe. No matter how much his heart ached, he had to continue living. In the next few days, Fang Ping was both in pain and happiness. After spending a large amount of wealth points, the cultivation of the methods of honing and pole standing saw immediate results. As the physical assessment approached, the news of Governor General Zhang's breakthrough to rank 7 officially spread. Along with the news of Governor General Zhang's breakthrough, a document was officially distributed to all schools. A new reward plan, Senior 3 Class 4. Fang Ping thought that as the new plan was distributed, everyone would discuss it. After all, it was a reward as high as 1 million. Few people would not be jealous. However, on Friday, when Fang Ping arrived at school, no one was discussing the plan. Although no one was discussing it, the classroom was in an uproar. This is too scary. Even from so far away, just watching the video is enough to scare me. Grandmaster powerhouses are really scary. Did you guys see that? Grandmaster Ma blew up the hilltop with one punch. Zhang Hao, don't talk nonsense. I saw the video. It's not clear at all. I only saw some rocks exploding. How do you know it was Grandmaster Ma who blew up the hilltop? Nonsense. It must be Grandmaster Ma. Penguin announced today that it's officially entering the Asian market. Google didn't say anything. It must be Tem who lost. I don't think so. They didn't announce the results. Are you even a Sino? If it wasn't Grandmaster Ma who won, could it be that foreigner? What? I didn't say Grandmaster Ma lost, but Tem has been a rank 8 for a few years now. In the classroom, the sounds of discussion and quarreling mixed together. Not only were the martial science students discussing, but the social science students were also excited. Yang Jian, who was talking to Qin Fan, saw Fang Ping enter the door. His face flushed, and he said excitedly, "Fang Ping, did you see the video last night? It's 2F asterisk king exciting. It's really amazing. When 2 grandmasters fought, the earth shook and the mountains shook. Their fists broke mountains and rivers. Grandmasters are invincible." Looking at the future bearded man who was talking incoherently, Fang Ping felt a headache coming on. I didn't see it. I don't have a computer at home. Are you guys discussing the battle between Grandmaster Ma and Tem? You didn't see it. Yang Jian looked at him as if he had committed a heinous crime. He said incredulously, "The internet went crazy last night." Although the exact location of the battle between 2 rank 8 grandmasters was not disclosed to the public. However, when it was past 7 p.m., there were still reporters waiting at the location. Grandmaster powerhouses can't fight indoors. Grandmaster Ma and Tem fought in a mountain in Shenzhen City. Although the reporters were too far away and did not capture the fight, they could tell how scary it was just by listening to the sound. Also, after the fight, the reporters waited until there was no more commotion and went to see the scene. You don't know how scary it was. There were pits everywhere. That was a mountain of rocks, and it looked like a hornet's nest. Yang Jian's tone was extremely excited. He waved his fists, spittle flying everywhere. Fong Ping quickly dodged. When he had calmed down a little, Fong Ping asked quickly, "Is the video online?" "Yes, it's online. You should really go and see it." Yang Jian continued, "It's a pity that we didn't see the winner or loser, but I'm sure Grandmaster Ma won." Zhang Hao, who was beside him, also said loudly, "Definitely." While everyone was discussing fervently, another person entered the classroom. It was Wu Zhihao, who had not been seen earlier. Wu Zhihao was usually calm, but at this moment his face was full of excitement. As soon as he entered, Wu Zhihao said loudly, "The Sino Nation Grandmaster ranking has just been updated. Grandmaster Ma has risen by 64 places, from 92 to 28. That's amazing. He's in the top 30. Why is he only 28? Someone shouted immediately. Grandmaster Ma defeated Tem. He should be in the top 20 at least. Did he not win yesterday? Someone guessed. Brother Ma supporters were not going to agree. Someone said angrily he must have won. Otherwise, how could he be in the top 30? Everyone was arguing endlessly. Fong Ping felt a headache coming on. Although he had personally encountered martial artists and was also cultivating, these people were fanatically worshipping Brother Ma. However, these people worshipped Brother Ma so fervently that Brother Ma could blow up a mountain with one punch. Fong Ping still felt that it was a little out of place. Hearing them argue so fiercely, Fong Ping was looking forward to it. He had to go to the internet cafe this afternoon and see how strong these Grandmaster powerhouses were. Although from what everyone said, they did not capture anyone, he could make some guesses when he saw the scene. Right now, Fong Ping still had no direct understanding of a martial artist's destructive power. Chapter 48. Noon. Blue Sky Net. The internet cafe, which was usually empty unless it was a day off, was now overcrowded. From time to time, one could hear people screaming. In a corner of the internet cafe, Fong Ping looked at the screen in front of him and muttered, "A bunch of jokers. I thought there was a video of a Grandmaster battle." Fong Ping was looking forward to the video after the lively discussion in class that morning. Fong Ping was a little disappointed when he saw the video. It wasn't that the Grandmaster wasn't strong. It was that he didn't manage to capture anyone. This reporter, who claimed to be risking his life to secretly take photos, was at least 100 meters away from the area where the two sides were fighting. What was worse was that the sky was dark and there was a small hill in between them. Other than hearing the deafening rumble, Fong Ping could not see anything else. Vaguely, he could see gravel flying from the other side of the hill. Could it be that those fellows were referring to the rubble when they said, "Blow up the mountain"? Fong Ping had to admit that it was impressive to be able to send a rock flying 100 meters away in a fight. But what about destroying a mountain with a single punch? Although he was a little disappointed, Fong Ping did not turn off the video. He continued to watch the video of the reporters going to the scene. This reporter, who had risked his life to take photos, was also a chatterbox. While secretly taking pictures, he also claimed credit. This time, the specific location of the fight between the two Grandmasters was not announced beforehand. Through my constant analysis and judgment, I finally determined the most likely location of the battle. The facts have proven that my analysis is correct. This is enough to prove my wisdom and boldness. This time, I'm risking my life to get close to the area where the Grandmasters are fighting, to make a contribution to the masses. If I, Lu Dali, die here, the audience must remember me. I, Lu Dali. As he spoke, the man pointed the camera at his old face. On the screen, the face of a man in his 30s appeared, covering the entire screen. He wasn't ugly, but when he laughed, he gave off a cheap feeling. It made people want to punch him until his face blossomed. At the very least, Fong Ping had the urge to beat him until his face was blooming. In the dark camera, Lu Dali grimaced and said, "Everyone remember my face. Even if I die, I will die a worthy death." To be able to die in the hands of two level 8 Grandmasters is as heavy as a mountain. This talkative reporter could not stop talking. Just as Fong Ping was getting impatient and was about to fast forward, Lu Dali suddenly grinned and said, "Just by looking at them, you can't imagine how scary a grandmaster is. Now I'm going to do an experiment. If I accidentally die here, blah blah." Lu Dali continued to act pitiful for a while. In the end, Lu Dali said with a serious face, "Based on my estimation, I'm at least 120 meters away from the center of the fight. I, Lu Dali, am a rank 3 martial artist. I have completed honing my limbs and more than half of my torso. With my strength, it's a piece of cake for me to split a limestone with my bare hands." As he said that, this fellow, who Fong Ping thought was a bit of a show-off, suddenly slammed his palm on the ground beside him. This was a stone mountain. The ground was not soil, but mountain rocks. Lu Dali slammed his palm down, and a dull sound came from the video. Then Lu Dali pointed the camera at the ground and said proudly, "See that?" Cracks appeared on the blue stone. As for my hand, it was completely unharmed. Of course, I'm not bragging about myself. I'm just proving to everyone that I, Lu Dali, am still very strong. He said that he was not bragging about himself, but anyone could tell from his tone that he was showing off. At this moment, if someone were to give him a wave of 666, this old man would probably laugh even more happily. Next, I'll use my palms that can split mountains and split rocks to catch a piece of gravel that's flying at me. I want to know if Grandmaster powerhouses are really so terrifying that they're invincible. With my strong strength, whether I can withstand the aftermath of a battle between Grandmasters will indirectly prove how terrifying Grandmasters are. Fong Ping was a little stunned. At first, he really thought that this fellow was just here to amuse him. As for the so-called risking his life to secretly take photos, it was naturally a gimmick. However, when Lu Dali smashed the limestone on the ground with one palm, Fong Ping's expression changed. Was this a rank 3 martial artist? Or was this an ability that all bone-honed martial artists possessed? From the perspective of the video, the rocks on the mountain were all hard and sturdy limestone. This unreliable reporter had smashed the limestone slab with one palm. His strength was obvious. Even if he did not see a battle between grandmasters today, Fong Ping felt that he had gained a lot. Fong Ping was still immersed in the scene of the other party, smashing the limestone with one palm. In the video, Lu Dali's expression turned completely serious. He said in a low voice, "Everyone, I'll only use my palm to catch it. But mistakes are everywhere. I haven't honed my skull yet. If the gravel is too powerful and hits my skull by mistake, I'll have to sacrifice my life here. However, I, Lu Dali, am not afraid of death. Everyone wait and see." Having said that, Lu Dali put the camera aside and aimed it at himself. He, on the other hand, stood still and focused, looking straight ahead. Soon, as Fong Ping's breathing became heavy, Lu Dali suddenly stretched out his palm, as if he was catching the rock. The camera was a little dark, so Fong Ping could not see very clearly. Just as Lu Dali stretched out his hand, a muffled groan came from the video. F***CK. That hurts. I'm done for. I won't court death anymore. Not far from the camera, Lu Dali crossed his palms and cursed for a while. The sound of breathing could be heard continuously. After a while, Lu Dali returned to the camera and calmly stretched out his bloody palm. It's really powerful. Grandmaster-level powerhouses are extraordinary. Let me tell everyone with practical experience. When grandmasters fight, low-ranked martial artists should run as far away as possible. Everyone, look, my palm that can split mountains and split rocks has been pierced by the gravel. You know, I, Lu Dali, am someone who has caught bullets before. Although it was a small caliber handgun bullet, it did not penetrate my palm. You can watch my video, Lu Dali, catching bullets with bare hands. Remember, you must watch it on a legitimate video website. I risked my life to catch bullets. It's not expensive. You can watch it once for 10 cents. Lu Dali advertised for a while and recommended the website where his video was played. He continued the topic from earlier. When rank 8 grandmasters fight, The shock waves and gravel produced are more powerful than bullets. Don't doubt this because I, Lou Dolly, have personally tested it for everyone. In the video, Lou Dolly began to ramble again. He looked very amusing, but Fong Ping did not look down on him at all. His palm had really been pierced through. It looked like a bloody mess. Even Fong Ping felt that it must have been very painful. However, although this guy had shouted a few times in the beginning, he still had the mood to continue bragging. Just this endurance alone was not something an average person could compare to. Next, Lou Dolly used the camera to record some scenes of the ground being pierced by the gravel. In the meantime, Lou Dolly did not dare to really record the scene of the two grandmasters fighting. He only relied on his own guesses to explain. Yes, to explain. Everyone listen. Grandmaster Tem has made his move. What a move! Thunderclap palm. Wow, amazing, too amazing. Listen, Grandmaster Ma is fighting back. He's using his famous ultimate move. Stampede of 10,000 horses. This guy's spittle flew everywhere as he talked. Fong Ping was dumbfounded. If he had not shown his skill earlier, Fong Ping would definitely have sent him a bunch of curses. Listen to your grandpa. However, the other party had shown his skill. Fong Ping was not sure if he was making it up. Maybe a rank 3 martial artist could really tell? With some doubts and uncertainty, Fong Ping had no choice but to continue listening to him. After waiting for about 20 minutes, Lou Dolly jumped up and said happily, "It stopped. I wonder if it's over. I'll go take a look now. Everyone, please prove that I walked out alive. If I don't come back, everyone, you must help me get justice. I'll definitely be killed by the two grandmasters." This guy said that he was not afraid of death, but in reality he was very afraid of it. He dawdled for a while before continuing forward. A minute later, a shocking scene appeared on the camera. In a small valley, the ground looked as if it had been bombarded by countless cannonballs. There were densely packed holes. Some were a few meters deep, while some were a few dozen centimeters shallow. Those who did not know better would not think that this was caused by a fight between living people with flesh and blood. On the ground, a light breeze blew, and gravel powder began to float. Lou Dolly kicked casually, and a thick layer of gravel powder rose from the ground. The camera turned one round. Lou Dolly seemed to heave a sigh of relief. He chuckled and said, "It's a pity that the two grandmasters have already left. The outcome is unknown. However, in my opinion, Grandmaster Ma should have lost. These holes on the ground should have been caused by Grandmaster Ma. Grandmaster Ma has just broken through to rank 8, so it should be difficult for him to retract his strength. That's why he caused such a huge aftershock. Grandmaster Tim has been a rank 8 for a few years. He can retract and release his strength at will, so it should not have caused such a huge aftershock. Of course, this is pure speculation. I hope that Grandmaster Ma wins. However, as a reporter, I can't go against my conscience." This guy boasted for a while again, and finally gave a few close-up shots of the valley. There were boulders that had been shattered into countless pieces, and there were footprints that Lou Dolly said were made by a person's feet. Fong Ping found it hard to imagine how a person could leave footprints the size of a wash basin and more than half a meter deep on a rock mountain. There were also holes that were said to have been made by a fist that resembled cannonball craters. After watching the video, Fong Ping was so shocked that he was no longer in the mood to listen to Lou Dolly's advertisement. This guy was acting pitiful again, saying that he had almost died and telling everyone to go to a certain website to watch a paid video. Fong Ping glanced at the website he had opened. After confirming that it was a well-known, legitimate website, he felt a little strange. He did not see any paid videos, just as Fong Ping was puzzled. At the headquarters of a certain video website. Chapter 49. On the way back to school, Fong Ping was still recalling the battle scene he had just seen. An inhuman, humanoid RPG. This was Fong Ping's judgment of the Grandmaster's abilities based on the damage at the scene. There should also be an RPG with intelligence, an RPG that can walk and run, and an unlimited supply of vitality. A Grandmaster's individual destructive power might not be as great as a missile or a nuclear bomb. However, in terms of destructive power, it was hard to say which one was stronger. After all, missiles and nuclear bombs were inanimate objects. Even if they were attacked, they might not die if they had fortifications. A closed city that was bombarded by missiles might not be completely destroyed. However, if a humanoid RPG like a Grandmaster was tossed into a closed city, it would not be a problem to kill everyone in the city, regardless of vitality consumption. It would be difficult to hide from them. Moreover, what he had seen was their full strength. The two Grandmasters were only sparring for the sake of the business scope of the company. This was not a battle of life and death. Who could tell how much strength was used in a sparring session? Perhaps in a life and death situation, these people could unleash even more destructive power. At this thought, Fong Ping suddenly cursed. Huang Bin, King Huang Bin. He cursed Huang Bin because the guy had misguided Fong Ping's impression of martial artists. A peak rank 2 martial artist had been taken out by a few bottles of knockout drugs. During those days, Fong Ping had really thought that martial artists were just SOSO. At the very least, martial artists in the lower 3 ranks were just normal people. However, just now, that idiot Lu Dali had effortlessly shattered the limestone with one palm and had even caught a bullet with his bare hands. Was he still human? If Fong Ping treated martial artists in the lower 3 ranks as someone like Huang Bin, he would not even know how he died in the future. If Huang Bin knew about this in the afterlife, he would haunt Fong Ping even as a ghost. In the afternoon, the video of the battle between the two Grandmasters was still a hot topic. Although Fong Ping already knew that these guys did not even see a shadow, it did not stop them from being as excited as if they were on steroids. It was only after school that the discussion gradually died down. Fong Ping was about to pack up and leave when the homeroom teacher, Lu Onghua, entered the classroom. Martial science students stay for a while. The rest of you can go back. The other students did not linger and left one after another. A few of them ran especially fast, their faces filled with joy as if something good had happened. After they left, Fong Ping thought too much. He could not help but ask, "Teacher, who's cleaning?" Lu Onghua froze for a moment. Wu Zhihao and the rest were also in a daze. This question was very reasonable. They were not on duty today, and the students on duty had all run away. They should be the ones cleaning up later, right? Lu Onghua was speechless. After a while, he said, "You guys clean up later. All right, sit down and let's talk business." Old Lu was also a little embarrassed and quickly changed the topic. Who would remember cleaning up? Only you, Fong Ping, talk too much. Fong Ping laughed dryly. He had only thought of this because he had been annoyed with cleaning recently. He had to clean up scenic lake gardens by himself. He didn't know pain if he didn't do housework. Fong Ping felt that every time he went to clean, it was more troublesome than cultivating by himself. Just as he was letting his imagination run wild, Lu Onghua coughed lightly and got to the point. Today is the 25th. There are only 5 days left until the physical examination. Although the results of the background check had not been announced yet, the school had already received the name list. All the students in our class passed this time. Very few people were eliminated during the background check, other than a few who had wishful thinking or those who had problems after registering. Almost everyone could pass. The school has also made arrangements. On the morning of the 30th, everyone will come to school together. The school will arrange for a car to send everyone to Auspicious Sun City. The school has also booked a hotel in Auspicious Sun City. Of course, those who are unwilling can go to Auspicious Sun City on their own, but don't miss the physical examination. Also, those who feel that time is tight these few days, you don't have to come to school. The martial sciences exams were around the corner. It was necessary to give the martial sciences students a few days off to recuperate. As Lu Onghua spoke, he reminded them, Everyone rest well these few days. Strike a balance between work and rest. Don't overdo it. Going too far is as bad as falling short. It's not good if you hurt your body. After explaining the specific gathering time, Luangwa did not stay any longer. Before he left, he seemed to remember something. He turned his head and said, "Everyone, remember to clean the classroom." Wu Jihao and the others looked at Fang Ping as soon as he said that. Fang Ping said innocently, "Why are you looking at me? It's our job, even if I don't mention it." Wu Jihao was too lazy to continue the topic. As he worked with the broom, he asked, "We've been talking about Grandmaster Ma for the whole day and forgot about the reward. Fang Ping, are you confident?" Everyone looked at Fang Ping as soon as he said that. Yang Jian could not help but say, "Wu Jihao, you're not joking, are you? The starting requirement is 125 calories. Do you think, Fang Ping?" Wu Jihao looked like he had everything under control. He grinned at Fang Ping. "Fang Ping, what do you think?" "Think what?" "I'll sweep the floor." Fang Ping did not reply. Wu Jihao had been quite interesting lately. He would test him from time to time and mention Wang Jinyang. He looked like he knew everything and that Fang Ping could not hide anything from him. Fang Ping knew what he was thinking, but he did not answer him directly. He wanted him to guess. Wu Jihao was used to Fang Ping not answering him directly. He said, "We'll be on break for the next few days. What are your plans?" Yang Jian chuckled. "I'll take medicine, take supplements, and train. My vitality should be a little higher than before. I didn't check, but I think it's at least 114 calories. I'll take a vitality pill before the physical assessment and then use the emotional outburst method that Brother Wang mentioned. If I can reach 116 calories, I think I have a high chance of passing the martial sciences exam." Everyone was a little envious when they heard Yang Jian's words. There was indeed a high chance of reaching 116 calories. Last year, the lowest was 112 calories, and the average was around 115 calories. It would definitely be higher this year, but 116 calories was not impossible. Zhang Hao cursed Yang Jian enviously and asked Wu Jihao, "Jihao, you're at 116 calories now, right?" "More or less. I didn't go for the physical assessment these few days." Wu Jihao sighed. "If only it was last year. I'm not so sure this year. Tan Hao and Tan Tao told me yesterday that they could reach 120 calories during the physical assessment. Zhou Bin was at 125 calories before, and Chen Jia from class 2 was at 120 calories before. That means there are 4 people with vitality above 120 calories, including Tan Tao and the others." "No, 5. Wu Jihao glanced at Fang Ping as he spoke. "This guy must have more than 120 calories. Last year, number 1 high school had 5 people who passed the exam. This year, 5 of them had more than 120 calories. If the ratio was the same as last year, Wu Jihao would not stand a chance. Moreover, there were 4 or 5 people in number 1 high school whose vitality was similar to his. There were at least 10 people who had more than 115 calories, and some of them even had more than 15. For example, Yang Jian. Although he did not have it now, he could reach it if he popped some pills at the last minute. Could number 1 high school have 15 martial sciences students? Even if vitality was not the only factor, Wu Jihao still felt a little uncertain. At this time, Wu Jihao could only comfort himself. The other schools were trash, but number 1 high school was the only one who had a breakthrough this year. Almost 10 people from Sun City had gotten into martial arts universities last year. If the other schools were trash, he still had a lot of hope. As they chatted, they finished cleaning. The others had more or less revealed their vitality. Fang Ping was the only one who interrupted them. Fang Ping felt a little helpless after leaving the school. "It's not that I don't want to tell you, but you don't believe me." Last weekend, he had cultivated the methods of honing and pole standing together for the first time, and his vitality had reached 133 calories. 5 days had passed now. With Fang Ping's speed, his progress would not be slow. Fang Ping stared at the interface and felt helpless. Even Old Wang would not believe him. Wealth: 2965000 vitality, 139 cal mentality, 160 hertz. This was the result of Fang Ping's vitality being stuck at 139 calories for 2 days. Fang Ping knew that this was the small hurdle that the Tan brothers had mentioned. However, Fang Ping had a feeling that it should be enough today. It took him 3 days to break through this small hurdle. It was indeed a waste of time. When he was at 120 calories, he could do it in 3 seconds. He did not go home. As usual, he went to scenic lake gardens for his daily cultivation. Today, Fang Ping planned to break through the 140 calories hurdle. In the gym, Fang Ping took off his shirt and officially began his cultivation. There were only 5 days left until the physical assessment. Fang Ping wanted to try and see if he could reach the 150 calories limit in 5 days. According to his guess, 149 calories might be possible, but 150 calories might be a big hurdle. After all, for most people, 150 calories was the limit of the human body. As he thought about this, Fang Ping could not help but wonder how high a grandmaster's vitality was. 1,000 calories? 5,000 calories? Or even more. Only with a strong vitality and strong bones could one have a strong, explosive force. Fang Ping's vitality was already at 139 calories. If he mobilized his vitality and punched with all his might, he would be slightly stronger than an average adult, but not by much. Those grandmasters could easily turn a rock mountain into a hornet's nest. The vitality they could mobilize was unimaginably strong. Setting these thoughts aside, Fang Ping began to focus on his cultivation. An hour later, Fang Ping walked out of scenic lake gardens, a smile on his face. He was in a good mood. Wealth: 2913000 vitality, 140 cal mentality, 162 hertz. His vitality had finally broken through to 140 calories, although his wealth was being consumed more and more. However, the consumption would be smaller if he did not break through all 10 hurdles. Fang Ping felt that if his vitality reached 150 calories, he would have at least 2 million wealth left. After witnessing the power of grandmasters, Fang Ping could not wait to become a martial artist himself. Before this, Fang Ping had only treated martial arts as a tool to break away from social class. However, when he saw the valley that had been turned into a hornet's nest during the day, Fang Ping realized that martial arts was not as simple as a tool. Before this, Fang Ping had hoped that the martial sciences exams would come later. Now he could not wait for the exams to end immediately and enter a martial arts university. Sun City was too small. It was so small that everyone knew about martial artists, but not many had actually seen one. It was so small that Wang Jinyang, a martial arts university student, could do whatever he wanted in Sun City without having to show off his strength. Entering a martial arts university would allow him to see the unknown world. Chapter 50. He did not have to attend classes for the next few days, so he spent more of his time cultivating. In the blink of an eye, it was April 29th. At night, in Lakeview Garden, Li Yueying helped her son tidy up his clothes. She was still a little worried as she said, "Ping Ping, you really don't want me to accompany you?" "Mom, this time the school will arrange for food and lodging. There's really no need to trouble yourself." But Li Yueying was still a little worried about letting her son travel alone. Beside them, Fang Yuan was a little jealous. "Mom, Fang Ping might come back on the 3rd. "There's no need to accompany him." Fang Ping glared at her. Li Yueying also rebuked, "Nonsense." The results of the physical examination would be released on the 1st and the 3rd. If he couldn't pass the physical examination, 03 would come back. However, if he passed, he would have to continue staying in auspicious Sun City to prepare for the practical test on the 7th and the general studies exam on the 10th. How long they stayed in auspicious Sun City meant how many trials they had to pass. The longer they stayed, the higher their chances of getting into a martial arts university. Being glared at by her mother and brother, Fang Yuan said guiltily, "I was purposely provoking Fang Ping so that he could stay in auspicious Sun City for a few more days." As she spoke, Fang Yuan became excited. She asked tentatively, "Fang Ping, do you want me to go with you and take care of you?" "You take care of me?" Fang Ping's expression darkened. "How useless must I be to need a girl like you to take care of me?" He was too lazy to continue the conversation, but he did not expect Li Yueying to be tempted. "Ping Ping, why don't, Mom?" Fang Ping cut him off immediately. With Fang Yuan's personality, it goes without saying who's going to take care of whom. "I'd be lucky if she doesn't cause trouble for me. Besides, she still has classes tomorrow. How can she go with me?" "Fang Ping." Fang Yuan was a little displeased. "Don't forget, I've been the one who's been washing your clothes for the past few days. Why don't you tell me how much it costs to wash a piece of clothing?" Fang Ping rolled his eyes. Fang Yuan had been home for the past 2 days, and Fang Ping had to change his clothes every time he cultivated. He was too lazy to do it himself. In the end, this girl volunteered to help wash it. Of course, she was charged by the piece. Now, this lass still had the nerve to claim credit. Faced with her mother's questioning gaze, Fang Yuan felt guilty again. "I'm saving money for you." "Who's taking your money?" Fang Ping did not know whether to laugh or cry, but he did not expose her. When he was done packing his clothes, Li Yueying handed him a stack of cash. At a glance, he could tell that it was at least 1,000. Fang Ping did not take it. He smiled and said, "Mom, I still have some. Also, the school is taking care of my food and lodging. It's all included in the registration fee." A few days ago, he bought a lot of snacks for Fang Yuan, and his parents found out. Fang Ping took the opportunity to mention that he had earned quite a lot from selling Wang Jinyang's autographs. He conveniently threw the blame to Old Wang. Naturally, Old Wang could not refute that, and Fang Yuan had always thought that was the truth. Although Fang Mingrong and his wife thought that Fang Ping was a little reckless to sell a martial artist's autograph, they did not pursue the matter further after Fang Ping said that Wang Jinyang knew about it. Even though Fang Ping said he had money, Li Yueying still forced the money into his hands. She didn't know how long her son would be away this time. Alone outside, without any money, it would be difficult for him to move an inch. Li Yueying was not out of touch with society. She often heard people talking about how much money their children had spent to prepare for the martial sciences exams. Some sold their houses, some got loans from the bank, and some borrowed money from relatives. His family was the only exception. Ever since Fang Ping had decided to prepare for the martial sciences examinations, he had only spent 30,000 to 40,000. To the Fang family, this was a lot of money. To the average martial sciences examinees, however, this amount of money was not even enough to pay for the pills they had prepared before the physical assessment. For the past few days, Fang Mingrong had wanted to buy Fang Ping another pill before the physical assessment. Even if he could not afford a vitality pill, a blood and qi replenishing pill would do. However, Fang Ping insisted on not buying it. He said that he was confident, so Fang Mingrong could only give up. His son was sensible and would not burden the family. However, the couple did not feel good about it. They always felt that they had let Fang Ping down. Li Yueying forced the money into Fang Ping's hands, gave him a few more instructions, and went out to clean up. Fang Ping took out the money that had been shoved into his pocket. He did not need to count to know that it was 2,000 yuan. The trip to auspicious Sun City would take anywhere from 3 days to 10 days. To the Fang family, giving him so much money in one go was a big deal. Fang Ping thought about it and accepted it in the end. His family was not at the point where they could not make ends meet. The martial sciences exams were coming soon. Once the exams were over, the problems would naturally be solved. His mother had left, but Fang Yuan had not. The little girl was still very interested in going to auspicious Sun City. She cupped her chin and looked at Fang Ping. Fang Ping, you're really not bringing me along? I can wash your clothes for you, no charge. And when you're taking your exams, I'll carry your bags and clothes. If you don't pass, I can comfort you. Focus on your classes. If you want to go out and play, you'll have plenty of chances in the future. Don't cause trouble this time. Fang Ping rejected her without a second thought. He might not say that Fang Yuan was causing trouble, but Fang Ping was not going to bring a burden along. Fang Yuan was a little disappointed. It's the Labor Day holiday, now that you're gone. I'm so bored at home alone. Quarreling with Fang Ping was one thing, but the siblings had never been separated since they were young. Now that Fang Ping was going out alone, Fang Yuan did not even need to think to know that he would be bored. Fang Ping smiled and rubbed her head. If you're bored, go out and play with your classmates. Remember to call me if you need anything. Do you remember my number? Yes. Fang Yuan knew that Fang Ping had bought a cell phone. Fang Ping said that he had bought it with the money he earned from selling his autographs, and Fang Yuan did not suspect anything. She only felt that her brother was despicable. He had stolen her ideas and made a fortune, but he did not even share the profits with her. That was why she had to pay for washing clothes for the past few days. It was Fang Ping's fault for spending so much money. The siblings chatted for a while. Although the little girl said that Fang Ping would not pass the exams, she gritted her teeth and made up her mind when she left the house. Fang Ping, if you come back after the 10th, I'll treat you to KFC. Fang Ping could not help but laugh. He teased her. From your tone, you seem to have saved quite a lot of money. No way. Fang Yuan denied it hurriedly, afraid that Fang Ping would find out how much money she had saved. These days, she had been thinking of ways to transfer money from Fang Ping's little stash to her own. Last night, Fang Yuan counted her stash and found that it was almost 300 yuan. She could not let Fang Ping know about this. Fang Ping could not help but laugh. Little money grubber, when your brother passes the martial sciences exams, a few hundred yuan will be nothing. This year, those with high vitality will get 1,000,000 yuan as an entrance bonus. When the time comes, I'll move our house to a bigger one. I'll buy you good food and new clothes. Fang Yuan felt dizzy as she listened to Fang Ping. She did not even know how she left the room in the end. The next day, at 7:50 a.m., Fang Ping arrived at the school entrance with his backpack. At that moment, 8 or 9 buses were parked in front of the school entrance. Students gathered in small groups under the buses, whispering to each other. Aside from the buses, there were also many private cars parked nearby, much more than usual. Fang Ping was about to look for class when he heard someone calling his name. He turned his head and saw Tan Hao, the eldest of the Tan brothers, waving at him. Seeing Fang Ping look over, Tan Hao shouted, "Fang Ping, over here!" His voice was so loud that it attracted the attention of many nearby people. Just as Tan Hao called out Fang Ping's name, a middle-aged man who was standing beside him and chatting with a few school leaders also turned his head to look at Fang Ping. When Fang Ping walked toward them, the closer he got, the more surprised the middle-aged man became. When they were less than 3 meters apart, the middle-aged man's eyes were already showing signs of shock. Similarly, when they were close to each other, Fang Ping's mentality far surpassed that of ordinary people, so he could not help but be attracted by the man. Fang Ping turned his head and saw the middle-aged man looking at him. He quickly smiled and nodded to show his respect. This time, the middle-aged man was even more surprised. Did this kid know him, or did he see through him? Tan, how naturally, did not know about their silent exchange. When he saw Fang Ping stop, he could not help but laugh. "Fang Ping, have you made any progress with your stance these days?" "It's all right." As they were talking, the man behind Tan Hao pushed aside the school leaders and took a step forward. He said with a smile, "Ah Hao, is this the Fang Ping you were talking about?" Tan Hao quickly said, Yes, Dad, he's Fong Ping. Fong Ping. This is my dad, Tan Hao explained to Fong Ping. Fong Ping had already guessed the man's identity. The few school leaders beside Tan Hao had flattering smiles on their faces, and their vitality was higher than that of ordinary people. Fong Ping knew who the man was just by using his brain. He did not expect Tan Hao's father to be here, though. Tan Jinping gave Fong Ping a long look. When Fong Ping greeted him, Tan Jinping nodded and smiled. Student Fong Ping, I'll be representing the city to lead the team for the Sun City Martial Sciences physical assessment this time. I'll be in charge of the negotiations for the Sun City Martial Sciences examination. If you have any questions, you can come to me. When we get to auspicious Sun City, Ah Hao and Ah Tao will follow the martial science students from number 1 high school. If you can't find me, you can look for Ah Hao and the others. Tan Hao was slightly surprised when he heard that. However, when he remembered that Fong Ping was supported by Wang Jinyang, he did not think too much about it. The school leaders from number 1 high school were shocked. What was going on? Almost none of the school leaders in charge of leading the team knew who Fong Ping was. As the leader of Sun City, Tan Jinping's status was much higher than theirs. He was also the only martial artist in the team. However, Tan Jinping's words just now caused them to be unable to wrap their heads around it. Fong Ping was also surprised, not because of Tan Jinping's politeness, but because Tan Hao's father was leading the team. The martial science examination was very important, and they were going to auspicious Sun City. Naturally, the higher-ups of Sun City would accompany them. Without a martial artist's identity, it would be difficult to negotiate many emergencies in auspicious Sun City. That was why it was customary for an official martial artist to lead the team every year. Fong Ping just did not expect that it would be Tan Jinping. Wu Zhihao seemed to have mentioned that Tan Hao's father worked in the government, but Fong Ping did not ask for details. Tan Jinping was so polite that Fong Ping quickly said, "Thank you, Uncle Tan." "You're welcome. You guys chat. We'll depart together when the teams from the other schools arrive." Tan Jinping explained a little more. This time, even Tan Hao felt that his father was being too polite. Even if Fong Ping had Wang Jinyang's support, Wang Jinyang was not here. Was there a need to explain such a small matter to Fong Ping? Despite his doubts, Tan Hao was carefree and did not think too much about it. Tan Tao, who had been silent, glanced at his father. Tan Jinping did not say anything either. He smiled and turned to continue talking to the school leaders. Although he was talking to others, Tan Jinping did not focus on it. He was still looking at Fong Ping from the corner of his eye. He had heard his son talk about Fong Ping and the rumors that Wang Jinyang thought highly of him. However, Tan Jinping did not pay too much attention to it. Fong Ping and Wang Jinyang were not related. Even if Wang Jinyang thought he was good and gave him some pointers and support, it was nothing. Tan Jinping was also a martial artist. He had done this before. When he was in a good mood, it was not unusual for him to give a few pointers when he met some good seedlings. However, whether he would remember them after that was hard to say. However, the moment Fong Ping walked over, Tan Jinping sensed that something was wrong. This kid's vitality was shockingly high. Tan Jinping was only a peak rank 1 martial artist. If his vitality was low, he would not be able to sense it. He could not compare to people like Wang Jinyang. Wang Jinyang could sense it when Fong Ping's vitality was 120 calories, but Tan Jinping could not. His vitality was not high enough, so he could not sense the difference at all. If he could sense it, it meant that the other party's vitality was very high. Tan Jinping could even vaguely feel that Fong Ping's vitality was surging, showing signs of breaking out of his body. Tan Jinping knew all too well what these signs meant. An aspiring martial artist with these signs was already half a step into the ranks of martial artists. How many cal is this kid's vitality? Tan Jinping guessed in his heart. In the end, he confirmed that this student named Fong Ping's vitality was not lower than 140 calories. This was a little scary. This meant that Fang Ping was almost guaranteed to get into a martial arts university. Moreover, once he met the standards for cultural studies, he was also confident of getting into the Big Two. This kind of person might surpass him the next time he saw him.